Hey guys, tonight we're crashing a 13th century Mongol pit stop. No passport required, just a decent immune system. Picture this. You've been jostling on camelback for days, every muscle screaming louder than a howling Zhou. The sun's bleeding orange across the endless steppe, that sea of grass, stretching further than your last Zoom call buffer. Tents bloom around you like giant linen mushrooms, each one smelling of yak wool and yesterday's campfire. Fun fact, those circular jur tents. Genghis Khan's army could assemble one in under 9 minutes, faster than you unbox an Amazon package. Don't get too cozy, yet survival odds here hover around maybe if you forget to double knot your bootlaces. Wind whips your face, a gritty exfoliant courtesy of the Gobi Desert's unpaid internship program. You crouch to examine hoofprints in the mud, toe the line between curiosity and becoming wolf chow. Reach for that water skin, but pause. Legend says the steppe drinks first. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. Our last caravan got questions from 3 different centuries. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your knees crack as you stand. 3 layers of wool, no match for the creeping chill. A boy trots past with armfuls of birch kindling, his cheeks redder than the fermented mare's milk. You'll regrettably try later. Historians still argue whether Mongol scouts navigated by stars or just really memorized every blade of grass. You eyeball the horizon, no Starbucks, no Wi-Fi towers, just swaying silvergrass and the occasional surprised marmot. The lead camel driver spits, a brown arc hitting dust with the precision of a Silk Road merchant haggling. His gloves are worn smooth. You count 15 stitches along the thumb. Bet you didn't know camel humps slosh when they're well fed, like organic canteens with bad attitudes. A woman unpacks a felt bundle, unfolding bowls that clink like wind chimes. Breeze carries the iron tang of distant storms. Your nostrils flare like a war horse scenting blood. Someone's roasting skewered goat. Fat drips into coals with angry hisses. You're 90% sure that's dinner, and 10% worried it's bait. Laughter erupts near the fire, a dice game involving sheep knuckles and questionable gambling rules. Your tent flap twitches, no latch, just a leather cord chewing itself raw in the wind. Inside, a moth-eaten blanket waits, probably older than your great-grandma's fruitcake recipe. The ground feels lumpier than a baker's first sourdough. You swear something just wriggles under your hip. A drunk cartographer once claimed Genghis Khan buried libraries of maps in copper tubes. They've never been found. 2 men argue over saddle placement, their voices sharpening like whetstones on dull blades. You peel a blistered heel off your boot, regretting every step since that 3rd helping of mutton stew. Outside, the night guard tests his bowstring, The twang vibrates in your molars. Stars wake up one by one, gossiping in constellations your city sky forgot. Your eyelids droop until a sudden roar shakes the camp. Turns out that bear was just old Batu snoring, his nasal symphony rivaling Tibetan throat singers. The fire dims to glowing teeth, grinning at your jumpiness. Somewhere beyond the light, wolves trade shifts, paws crunching last autumn's dead grass. You unroll a mildewed prayer mat, its floral patterns faded to ghostly outlines. Prayer feels different here, less words, more listening to the steps' low hum. That's your cue to curl into a ball, hood pulled tight against the dark. Wind finds every gap in the jurors' felt walls, needling your spine like a skeptical acupuncturist. The camp's last lantern dies, plunging you into blackness thicker than fermented yogurt. Sleep comes anyway, a thief stealing into your skull with silent horse steps. The last tent peg sinks into thirsty earth as dusk bleeds gold to violet. Your blistered palms brush against camel wool, rougher than a blacksmith's thumb. One by one, the beasts kneel like grumbling emperors, their groans longer than the shadow-striped steppe. You catch a smirk from a bow-legged trader. This is the moment the real work begins. Ropes loosened, the first bale exhales a century of spices. Your fingertips meet silk, so thin it shivers, a lover's veil snatched by desert wind. Funny how a fabric softer than mare's milk could bankroll empires. Let historians bicker over whether Genghis Khan's horde craved silk more for banners or bedsheets. You're just here to keep this batch camel spit free. Those camels, sullen as teenagers hauling trash cans, stare you down while workers unload. Heads swivel, tiny ears flicking. Someone mutters a proverb you've heard 6 times since Samarkand. Trust a sandstorm before a bored camel. True enough, one spits a glistening wad at a guard's boot. Laughter ripples, a fleeting truce between sore backs. Gossamer panels catch twilight dyed the blue of frozen lakes. Your thumb rubs a hidden seam, the stitchwork's flawless. But here's the kicker. Each trader swears his silk's real, Qin dynasty vintage. Never mind that half these bolts were likely woven last monsoon in some Kashgar backroom. Still, even fakes could buy a warlord's loyalty west of the Pamirs. Between folds, the camel's sweat and clove stink clings, makes you wonder, did those Han dynasty envoys really trade jade for horses 5-1? Your boot nudges a fallen tag, a smear of vermilion ink marking the bundle Merv to Milan. Historians still argue whether silk moved faster on hoof or by haggling tongue. But right now, it's moving by your calloused grip. A gust snaps fabric skyward, a sudden sail of peacock green. Workers lunge, grabbing corners like taming a ghost. Someone's grandmother once told you nocturnal moths mistake silk for moonlight, will shred it seeking an impossible mate. Quaint myth, until a fuzzy wing brushes your neck. The loadmaster barks, hands mapping air like a war general. Left side higher. You there, stop cradling that roll like a newborn. You comply, muscles burning. 10 bundles left, each smelling of lotus oil and impatient ambition. One merchant fingers his necklace, a Roman coin strung beside wolf teeth, the cross-cultural cocktail party of the century, and you're the bouncer. Deep in the stack, a scroll tumbles free. Unfurled, it reveals a map painted on lamb's liver skin. Rivers loop like cursive, mountains stitched with silver thread. No one claims it. Between us, some scholars swear these pathfinders were just inked by drunk camel vets. Still, you pocket it. Could be worth a jug of rice wine tomorrow, or kindling. Moonrise silvers the final knots, hands idle, the camp exhales. Somewhere, a flute trills a tune older than the Altai peaks. You lean against a bale, its threads murmuring of mulberry groves, and the sticky fingers that spun them. 5 generations back, your great-grandmother might sold cumin for a scrap like this. Now, it's heading to a Venetian's mistress. Funny how stories weave through fabric. The last camel hawks a globule into the dust, a punctuation mark for the night. You wipe sweat, grinning at the absurd glamour of it all. Tomorrow's dust will taste the same. But for now, the stars document every stolen thread. The embers pulse, a heartbeat under charred logs. You huddle closer, your shadow merging with a trader whose breath smells of fermented mare's milk. Someone tosses sweetgrass into the flames. The smoke curls into spirals older than the Great Wall. Funny how fire turns even accountants into philosophers after the 3rd cup of barley wine. A pot clangs, its iron sides streaked with decades of char. Inside, chunks of goat swim beside apricots plundered from Samarkand orchards. The stewmaster swears his recipe dates back to Kublai Khan's personal chef, though you suspect his secret spice is just extra peppercorns pilfered at Taxila. Historians still argue whether Mongol camps used smoke signals for military codes, or just to lure spies into coughing fits. Laughter erupts as a storyteller pokes the fire, flames leaping to accent his tale. He spins yarns of snow leopards who marry moon goddesses, and of course, the obligatory camel who outwits a tiger. A boy to your left insists his uncle once traded salt for a Siberian tiger cub, kept it as a pillow until it ate his best boot. He claims, eyes wide as steppe hares. The smoke shifts, forming shapes that almost look intentional. That's the trouble with campfires. Give humans 5 minutes, and they'll see omens in burnt twigs. Someone mutters about whispering flames, an old practice where shamans read fortunes in ash patterns. Modern scholars dismiss it as drunken pareidolia, but you squint harder. Those ember lines do resemble a galloping horse, or maybe a very lumpy sheep. A kettle hisses, its spout dribbling poor tea darker than a moonless night. The pourer, a woman with hands mapped by old burns, claims her brew can unstitch bad luck. You sip cautiously. Tastes like fallen leaves stored in a leather sock, but your frozen fingers thank you. She nods at your shiver. Tea and fire, same thing. Both turn memory into warmth. A trader across the pit pulls out a bone flute, its notes fluttering like moth wings. The tune tugs at something your grandmother once hummed while carding wool. Music historians would later trace the melody to Tibetan herding songs. But right now, it's just a stranger's breath making the dark feel lighter. The loadmaster joins in hammering rhythm on a dented helmet. For a heartbeat, the caravan forgets blisters and bandits. You spot the astrologer crouched apart, tossing dried dung chips into the flames. Each chunk pops, spewing greenish sparks, messages for the stars. He explains without looking up. An oddball theory claims Central Asian shamans used copper salts to color smoke signals, though tonight's show is likely just moldy camel droppings. Still, you watch an especially bright ember soar. Let future PhD candidates debate its meaning. You're just here for the pyrotechnics. The pot's ladle scrapes bottom the sound, triggering a scavenger hunt for forgotten raisins in empty bowls. Across the fire, two merchants debate silkworm ethics over shared lamb ribs. I tell you, the best threads come from worms serenaded with lullabies. Scoffs, one grease glistening on his chin. His rival counters with claims of incense-fed mulberry leaves. You hide a smirk, save the sermon for Venice, where they'll overpay either way. Wind shifts, smoke ambushes your nostrils. Eyes water, nostrils flare, a chorus of coughs erupts. The storyteller wheezes through tears. Even the fire wants its tale told. Half the group retreats. A few stubborn souls remain leaning back like reeds in a gale. Toughness is temporary. Pride is forever. As flames dwindle, conversations fracture into yawns. A teenager mimics the loadmaster's bark, secure the perishables, until an apple core beans his temple. The night watch starts its first round, spear butts thumping the earth in lazy rhythm. You stretch, your spine crackling like the dying fire. The astrologer was right about one thing. Ash always smells like endings, and whatever comes next, someone tosses the last log on. It hisses, protesting the weight of sparks. The smoke twists into something that might be a mountain rain or a very ambitious bread loaf. You don't stay to decide. Tomorrow's miles won't walk themselves. But for now, let the stars parse the smoke's half-finished stories. You glimpse a figure at camp's edge, leather glove raised like a midnight flag. The falconer's hooded bird bobs, its beady eyes tracking something beyond human sight. Mongol Khans once traded prized gerfalcons for entire cities, their feathers worth more than scribes' annual wages. You inch closer, stepping on a twig that cracks louder than a disobedient cart axle. The man doesn't turn. She'll bolt the step's breath if you clomp like that. His voice carries the gravel of crushed river stones. The glove shifts, the falcon's talons flexing in anticipation. Historians still argue whether Genghis Khan's hunters used golden eagles to snatch wolves, or just scare poets into better metaphors. A whistle slices the air, thin and sharp, as a scimitar's edge. Wings unfurl. The bird becomes a shadow, chasing the sun's last blush. Your neck cranes, watching it dive toward a speck only falcons and gods notice. The steppe stiffens, grass blades quivering under some primal alert. Even the camel's paws mid-chew, stumpy ears twitching toward the hunt. A 14th century Persian scroll claims trained falcons drank from skulls of vanquished kings. You squint, half expecting the bird to return with a jeweled goblet. Instead, it arcs upward, a blur of wrath and feathers. The impact is silence first, then a muffled thump as prey meets earth. The falconer jogs, boots whispering through dry grass. His prize, a plump hare still twitching with leftover life. The bird mantles over its kill, a hiss warning even you to keep distance. She'll rip your nose off for breathing near supper. He chuckles, digging into his belt pouch. Tossed meat distracts the raptor, letting him reclaim his glove's rightful owner. You note the jesses, braided straps dyed indigo. To match the Khan's war banners, he snorts, to remind her I'm the one with the meat. Practicality trumps pageantry on the steppe, though you suspect he spends evenings polishing those silver leg bells. Dusk deepens, the horizon swallowing the bird's silhouette. They see 8 times the colors we do. He murmurs, staring where sky melts into land. Some scholars insist falconers used copper lenses to mimic avian sight. But you doubt any gadget rival's raw instinct. The man taps his temple. She knows wind's taste, knows when storms hum 3 valleys away. The falcon returns, landing with the grace of falling ash. Her crop bulges, a bottomless pit disguised as elegance. Greedy wench, he mutters, though his hands cradle her like a relic. You witness the pact, predator and provider circling an ancient deal. She tolerates his nonsense. He ensures she dines like a warlord. Campfires bloom behind you, their glow jealously clawing at the twilight. The falconer shades his eyes. Best get back before the tea turns to tar. His joke lands flat, yet you linger. For a heartbeat, the falcon's glare holds yours. Pupils like blackened coins, reflecting flames too distant to name. He readjusts the hood, plunging her world into sudden calm. They dream of flight, he confides, stroking mottled breast feathers. You can feel it, their muscles twitching for the void. Modern biologists roll their eyes at such claims. But you vow to check your tent later for phantom wing beats. The first star pierces the violet above a queue for the hunt's end. Together, you trudge toward camp, the falcon, now a brooding silhouette on his shoulder. She's already forgotten the hare's frantic pulse. You're still unraveling yours. Someone yells about burnt flatbread, the universal alarm for dinner disasters. The falconer veers off, calling over his shoulder. Remember, tomorrow's breeze favors the quiet. You file the advice beside other camp mysteries, like why camel spit cures warts, or how stew survives sandstorms. At the fire pit, the bird gets her own skewer of goat fat. Warriors glance sideways, their envy poorly veiled. You sip lukewarm tea, its bitterness softened by the day's last marvel. Overhead, the stars stretch endlessly. Somewhere among them, a feathered shape still slices the dark. The fire's crackle fades to embers as stars multiply, cold and sharp as arrowheads. You drift toward the perimeter, where shadows sharpen into watchmen clutching spears. Their lamellar armor clinks, a metallic shiver answering the wind's whisper. Mongols organized night guards into shifts called nurkers, loyalty proven through frozen vigils. One warrior spits, a dark blotch sinking into dust. Try sleeping mid-route, see what creeps into your dreams. Boots crunch nearby a patrolman testing his blade's edge with a calloused thumb. He pauses, tilting his head at distant dunes. Some claim Genghis Khan's sentries mimicked wolf howls to signal threats. You strain to hear, but only the steppes' hollow breath answers. A chuckle rumbles through the dark. Relax, they won't skin you unless you snore. The spear gleams, its tip catching starlight like a guiltless diamond. Historians still argue whether caravan guards used encrypted throat singing or just tossed pebbles at dozers. You mimic the warrior's stance, shoulders squared against the void. Bad idea. Your spine protests, a chorus of pops louder than a lute string snapping. The nearest guard snickers, teeth flashing in the gloom. A wolf's howl slices the night, raw and ragged as torn silk. Spears pivot westward, a forest of steel trembling toward the sound. Seconds blur each breath a hammer strike against ribs. Then, an answering yip echoes from the east. The men relax, shoulders slumping like deflated water skins. Just lovers, grunts a sentry, or fools too dumb to fear arrows. You squint at the blackness, half expecting glowing eyes to materialize. Instead, a meteor scars the sky, its tail dissolving into myth. The watchman beside you mutters a prayer, fingers brushing a leather amulet. 13th century travelers swore some guides navigated by tracking falling stars. You make a mental note to check your bedroll for cosmic debris. A flask appears, sour kumis fumes announcing its contents before it touches lips. The sentry offers it, grinning at your choked cough. Warms better than a campfire, he lies. Your throat burns, a welcome distraction from toes numbing inside boots. He nods toward the horizon. Dawn's 3 dreams away, if the sky doesn't crack first. Something crunches underfoot, a charred bone left by dinner's chaos. The guards tense, spearpoints converging on the noise. When a scuttling jerboa emerges, they curse its lineage back to dusty ancestors. You bite your cheek, hard to smother a laugh. Night watches breed creative insults like mold on saddlebread. The wolf cries again, closer now. Bows creak as strings draw taut. A sentry hisses, urging silence, but the howl unravels into human laughter. 2 figures stumbling into firelight, drunken traders, arms slung over swaying shoulders. The guards groan, lowering weapons. Horse piss masquerading as men, one spits. Historians rarely mention how often history's wheels turned thanks to bad ale. You retreat toward your tent, crusted tea bowls, and snoring companions beckoning. A sentry's voice follows. Mind the trip line, unless you fancy eating dirt. Too late. Your shin meets hemp rope pain blossoming like a vengeful flower. Their guffaws chase you into the tent flaps, a reminder that dignity dissolves faster than sugar in hot arag. Inside, a single oil lamp gutters. Someone's stolen your best blanket again. You collapse onto scratchy wool, ear pressed to thin fabric. Beyond, boots shuffle, and spear butts tap dirt. The watch's rhythm blends with your pulse, a lullaby for the half-awake. Dawn lingers beyond the hills, patient as a spider. You drift caught between wolf howls and warrior gossip. Somewhere, a guard hums an off-key ballad about lost camels and uglier wives. Sleep claws at your edges, but the night holds firm. A final howl erupts, this time met by silence. The air thickens, spearwood creaks under tightening grips. You sit up, fumbling for boots that vanished hours ago. Through tent gaps, you glimpse silhouettes merging into a tighter ring. The moon dips, taking its silver lies with it. Then, a whistle, high and pure, a sound that parts the dark like a blade. The guards exhale, postures loosening. False alarm or mercy from whatever prowls beyond the fire's reach. You slump back, heart drumming a rebellion against calm. When the tent flap finally flutters, with first light, you've memorized every stain on the canvas overhead. The watchmen slump at their posts, spears leaning like exhausted dancers. One nods, a barely perceptible dip of the chin. You return it, aware of the unspoken pact. They guarded your oblivion. You'll pretend not to notice them napping at dawn's shift. Outside, frost etches the world in glass. Footprints litter the camp's edge, human and otherwise. A single wolf track presses deep, its edges blurred by wind. You kneel, fingers hovering above the impression. Ice crystals melt under your breath, erasing the night's last secret. The last wolf track melts under your boot, frost surrendering to morning's amber glare. By nightfall, you're back to pretending dried mutton tastes like anything but saddle soap. The weaver claims her corner, fingers combing through horsehair, strings oiled with sheep fat. Those instruments gave nomads portable music, a symphony stuffed into saddlebags. She plucks a note. The sound unravels your knotted shoulders. Someone mutters it's just twisted yak gut, but you're too slack-jawed to care. Legend says certain rhythms could heal shattered bones if you drank enough fermented mare's milk first. You sip your lukewarm arag, jury's still out. A string snaps. Her curse invents 3 new words for incompetent goat. The crowd winces, laughter bitten back like stubborn hiccups. Historians still argue whether these tunes documented battles or just roasted bad ex-lovers. The repair done, she resumes playing. Melodies braid through smoke, soothing tempers slower than a drunken camel blinks. Someone hums along, a gravelly duet with the wind. You count 8 distinct smells: incense, sweat, burning dung, regret. A toddler sways, arms up like a tipsy eagle. Careful, hisses a mother. That's how your uncle joined the circus. The weaver's rhythm shifts, faster now, mimicking hooves pounding frozen earth. Your eyelids dip, each note a weight tied to your lashes. Did she just rhyme moon with spittoon? Debate it tomorrow. Embers tattoo the dark, orange pulses keeping time. A nearby guard snores upright, dreaming of insults he'll hurl at dawn. The song ends, silence crashes down like a dropped kettle. You blink, half expecting applause. Instead, a dozen snores rise in jagged harmony. The weaver smirks, wrapping her instrument in felt worn smoother than a Khan's ego. Night reclaims its throne stitched together, for now, by horsehair and hope. Your boot sole sticks to drying mud, step clay hardening like nature's epoxy. The weaver's last note still hums in your teeth when an elder clears his throat, a sound like gravel down a wool chute. Embers pulse as he spreads ash across bare earth, 3 fingers sketching mountains. Only he sees. This here, he rasps, is where the jade gate spat us out like peach pits. His nail etches a wavy line, silk road cartography via fireplace cinders. 16 summers back, you'd have rolled your eyes. Now you lean closer, knees popping like overstressed kindling. The old man's breath smells of black tea and unresolved grudges. Traded 7 bolts of damask for a Sogdian parrot once, he chuckles. Lovely lyre claimed it spoke verses from the Quran. Turned out, it just squawked obscenities in Uyghur. A teenager snickers, gets elbowed into silence. Fingers drum on arthritic knees, the rhythm of long-dead caravans. Gobi demons steal your shadows at noon, warns a woman missing 2 front teeth. Her hands flutter, candlelight casting clawed silhouettes. Tie red thread around your big toe confuses their counting. Someone mutters about needing 8 spools for their feet. The fire snaps. Laughter chases superstitions into the dark. Historians still argue whether Marco Polo actually tasted those legendary Mongolian ice creams or just cribbed the recipe from Persian traders. You swipe a finger through your cup's condensation, improvised frostbite prevention. The elder recounts bribing Tibetan bandits with Sichuan peppercorns. Made them weep more than their mothers ever did, he grins. Ash maps dissolve as he draws a wobbly Caspian Sea cartographic dementia or genius. You can't tell. A girl offers a fermented milk skin pouch, communal storytelling tax. The elder sucks it dry with misplaced vigor. Ever heard of the Hangzhou carpet heist? He wheezes. 19 camels loaded with Persian rugs, swapped for counterfeit tea bricks in a sandstorm. His neighbor groans. You told that tale when snow still covered the Altai. Details improve with age like mutton in brine. His stick pokes the fire, sparking a tiny rebellion. Real treasure wasn't silk or spices. It was gossip. He winks, revealing a gold-capped molar, knew which Khans wet their beds, which generals preferred dancing boys to battle. A conspiratorial pause. sold that knowledge for safe passage through 7 kingdoms. Fingernails trace a phantom route through ash. Met a Franciscan monk near Samarkand, swore he'd bottle the wind's soul. The elder mimed cradling glassware. Last I heard, papal guards smashed his heretical jars in Avignon. Young listeners exchange glances, calculating truth-to-bull ratio. You notice his left thumb's missing tip. Frostbite. Axe mishap. Best not ask. Cold nips your earlobes as a younger voice chimes in. What about the dancing bears of Bukhara? The elder scowls territorial as a gerbil guarding millet, trained with honey and hot coals, he concedes. Until one ate its owner's face mid-performance. Poetic justice, really. Silence follows, broken by distant elk mating calls. The fire's dying, its glow reduced to a sulky blush as the elder drones on about Tajik horse thieves. Your mind drifts. Silk Road merchants supposedly used peacock feathers as IOUs, avian ATMs, across continents. You squint at suspiciously striped chicken plumes in a nearby hat. When the storyteller starts snoring mid-sentence, no one dares wake him. Maps dissolve. Stories dissipate. The steppe absorbs tailies like rain, preserving none, remembering all. Your chin nods toward your chest, campfire warmth seeping through worn soles when iron shoes strike flint. Every head whips north. A horseman emerges silhouette, warped by heat haze. His mare's nostrils flare crimson, blood vessels bursting from 3 days' gallop, Orkhon rivers swelling. He rasps, reins trembling like spider threads. Historians confirm Mongol scouts used mercury-treated parchment for flood warnings. This rider's scroll case drips mud instead, urgent enough to forgo formalities. His gelding collapses, legs folding like a child's wooden puzzle. Foam speckles its neck contrails of desperation. Someone offers fermented horse milk. The scout drains the skin, dribbles tracing crevices in his weather-cracked lips. 3 tributaries merged, he coughs. Waters rising faster than a concubine's favor. That's your fact. Genghis Khan's engineers once diverted the Orkhon itself during sieges. Now its offspring threatens your camp. A boy touches the mare's heaving side. They say steeds smell storms through their hooves, he whispers. Quirk inserted. Medieval equestrian folklore claims horses detect water via keratin vibrations. The scout spits brownish phlegm hits dirt. No hooves needed. Saw fish swimming through half-drowned yurts. He rubs his mount's ear, a gesture too tender for his boulder-cut face. 3 days east, rivers pregnant with spring melt. The chieftain materializes, wolf pelt cloak reeking of rancid fat. How many crossings? His thumb polishes a jade thumb ring, Song Dynasty loot from a forgotten raid. 5 shallow fords gone. The scout's pinky traces a wet line on the chieftain's arm. New channels here, and here. Historians still argue whether Mongol message sticks used yak milk cipher codes. This scout prefers soggy cartography. Laughter erupts by the picket line, 3 warriors betting on vulture circling patterns. The chieftain's glare extinguishes mirth. Break camp at first crow's fart, he growls. You help dismantle felt tents, fingers numbing as you untie wet knots. Someone mutters about river ghosts dragging down Merc Khan's entire navy. Your spine prickles. Those ships were real, lost trying to invade Japan via typhoon. Bonfires shrink to ember mounds. A cook wraps sesame cakes in lotus leaves, proto-Ziploc strategy. Moonlight adulterates the tea, sludge in your cup. That scout's choking breaths still echo, human accordion squeezed too tight. Far eastward, lightning stitches clouds to horizon. No thunder reaches you, yet just the steppes' dry heaves. The river's coming. The earth knows it first. 2 girls roll an empty ale cask makeshift game, distracting younger siblings. Their giggles falter as the chieftain's buffalo horn trumpet blares. Final invoke, Mongol signal horns could allegedly rupture eardrums at 40 paces. You shoulder a sack of millet, weevils staging protests inside. The mare's corpse already draws 7 crows. One pecks its glassy eye, breaks the surface tension of death. Boots churn soil into slurry, 800 footsteps composing a mud symphony. No one looks back. Ahead waits the Orkhan's wrath, anger diluted across 60 leagues, but gaining potency. The chieftain spurs his stallion, a beast bred from glacier winds and spite. Your blistered heel grinds against raw leather. Somewhere beyond the horizon, a river licks its cracked lips. Your blistered heel grinds with each step, the phantom Orkhan's roar still haunting your ears. Moonlight douses the steppe in mercury. Dunes ripple like a smith's spilled quicksilver. Throats parch, your tongue rasps against teeth, tasting of dust and dread. A child points her nail, catching lunar glow. Water, she croaks. 50 heads pivot, a silver lake shimmers, where dry earth ruled yesterday. Mongol scouts trained eagles to spot oases. This glint mocks their legacy. Your stomach knots, hopes a dangerous draught to swallow. The chieftain halts, his stallions snort carves fog. Lair's folly, he mutters. One mainstream gem, Persian geographer Al-Idrisi, documented such phantom lakes confusing 12th century Silk Road traders. But tonight's illusion feels hungrier. A warrior kicks sand, it parts like smoke. The lake retreats teasing. Someone uncorks a waterskin, last drops kiss cracked lips. A joke dies in his throat, humor's carcass, left 3 valleys back. 2 camels low their humps, sagging like melted wax. Historians still argue whether mirages fueled Genghis Khan's invasion strategies. Did he see empires where others saw sand? The wind hisses, an answer written in no living tongue. A girl crouches, palm hovering over water. Her shadow stretches, clawed fingers almost grazing the illusion. Quirk time medieval Central Asian shamans believed mirages were the moon's breath trapped underground. She whispers an old warning, drink moonlight, vomit locusts. The chieftain yanks his reins, leather screaming. West Fork, he barks. No one moves, the lake winks. Its surface ripples, no wind to blame. You blink, a flicker of reeds, of fish spines. An arrow arcs launched by a bored archer. It pierces nothing, vanishing midair. Laughter rattles loose, a nervous game. The lake retaliates, reflecting 7 moons where one should float. Your nape hairs rise, folly shifts to fable. The caravaner beside you unwraps a Chinese letter, ing fig, reek of sweet decay cuts through the weirdness. They say Kublai's men followed mirages for 9 days, he muses. One myth claims they found orchards of singing peaches. Another insists only scorpion nests. Hooves thunder, the scout from the river gallops past. His new mare sweats blood, or maybe it's rust. He doesn't glance at the lake, wise man. You fix your gaze between her flicking ears, the only real thing here. Sand stings your shins, the shore claims its due. The oasis shrinks a puddle, then a scar, then a memory etched in silica. Later, scholars will call this Fata Morgana, but tonight, it's just the steppe laughing. Moon bleeds white, dawns a blade at the horizon. The caravan trudges west, shadows dragging like broken promises. Behind, the dunes exhale, their silver tongue still flickering. Flickering. Gone. Your mare's bridle jingles, a sound older than the great wall's first brick. Leather creaks as riders tilt toward the North Star, their breath frosting in air sharp enough to slice mutton. Funny thing about Polaris, Genghis Khan's scouts called it the golden nail hammered into heaven's roof. Tonight, it gleams like a traitor's grin. Ahead, stirrups flash, iron polished by 1,000 miles of boot soles. You squint where patterns on those footrests could map entire wars. Ever notice how Mongol saddles had elevated backs? Cavalry archers could twist mid-gallop, spitting arrows backward like angry hornets with terrible aim. Your own saddle groans, sounds like it's judging your posture. Starlight bleeds through gaps in the clouds, celestial lace. Historians still argue whether the Golden Horde timed raids using Orion's belt or pure spite. A rider coughs, 3 short bursts mimicking a nightjar's call. Signal or reflex? Can't tell anymore. Your gloved hand brushes the mare's neck. Frost melts beneath your touch. She remembers roots buried by sandstorms, her hooves tracing paths, even maps abandoned. There's a reason Mongol ponies could smell water leagues away. They were basically furry divining rods. Too bad yours just tried nibbling your sleeve. To the east, a meteor scribbles its suicide note across the sky. Someone mutters about Tengri's dropped torch. A mainstream nugget, Mongol shamans' red omens in shooting stars' colors. Crimson meant bloodshed, green foretold grassland renewal. This one's white-hot, open interpretation. You vote for keep riding. The column halts. A scout dismounts to scratch symbols in frozen dirt. His knife flashes, creating a star chart only he understands. Quirk alert. 13th century Tibetan traders claimed certain nomads navigated via constellation maps drawn in sheep's blood. This guy's using a dagger, and bad attitude close enough. Wheels creak, those in carts huddle under wolf pelts. You envy their fur hats, yours lets icy fingers scalp your ears. The North Star pulses, it's either guiding you or laughing. Hard to tell with celestial bodies. They're like that aloof friend who texts once a year. A teenager points. His mitten outlines a star cluster shaped like a mare's skull. The warriors bridle. He whispers. Older riders snort. One tosses a dried apricot at his head. Legends say Kublai Khan's astrologer invented that constellation during a particularly creative bender. Hoofbeats quicken. The path slopes downward into a gully. Shadows swallow the vanguard. Starlight can't penetrate this belly of stone. Your mare hesitates, her nostrils flaring at frozen wormhood. You nudge her onward, trusting the rider ahead more than your own eyes. Ice cracks beneath wheels, shattering the silence. The chieftain's second in command curses his breath, forming a tiny thundercloud. Mongol horse archers could shoot blind in such darkness, guided by stirrups pressed against their mounts. Your fingers flex, imagining a bow's absent curve. Above the gully's rim, stars multiply. They pulse in time with your mare's gait, or maybe your headache. The North Star now winks between granite teeth, playing peekaboo with destiny. You recall a debate from Karakoram's taverns. Did the stars pull men westward? Or was it just decent grass for the horses? A camel grumbles in the rearguard, its complaint echoing off canyon walls. The sound twists, becoming a shepherd's flute from your childhood. Sleep deprivation or spirit song. The steppe guards its mysteries closer than a miser's coin purse. Dawn stains the horizon, egg yolks smeared across a soot-colored sky. Polaris fades, its duty done. Riders slump, stirrups loosened by weary feet. Dreams of warm yurts dissolve with the night. Ahead, the steppe stretches infinite. Behind your shadow grows fangs. The mare sneezes, a rude epilogue to the starlit march. You pat her damp neck, grateful she didn't bolt in the gully. Leather creaks one final time as she plods toward the sun's glare. Somewhere above, constellations fold their maps until next darkness demands their navigation. The last embers of sunset cling to iron ladles. Your nostrils flare at cummin's earthy punch. A cook's calloused hands crush black peppercorns, two stones clacking like sparring crickets. Ever notice how Mongolian stew pots doubled as foot warmers? Genius, if you ignore the toe-shaped noodles sometimes found inside. Copper kettles hiss, their bellies full of millet beer brewed yesterday. Mainstream fact, incoming, Genghis's armies survived on arag, fermented mare's milk that could strip paint. This batch smells tamer, like a goat's sneeze, filtered through pine needles. A kitchen boy sneaks a sip, his face puckers, as if bitten by a sour ghost. Flames lick a bronze cauldron, fat bubbles erupt like miniature volcanoes. The cook stirs clockwise, and old wives' tale says counterspins invite frost demons. Quirky tidbit alert. Some steppe nomads believed adding a wolf's whisker to broth cured cowardice. Tonight's recipe features dried mutton and wild onions, courage optional. Your numb fingers close around a wooden bowl. The heat seeps into marrow. Bone broth glistens. A rainbow of fat swirls on the surface. Historians still argue whether Mongols used saffron or just stole enough to turn soups suspiciously yellow. This one's hue leans toward borrowed treasure. A gust nips your ears. You hunch closer to the fire. Smoke plumes write cursive in the air messages for ancestors too bored to read. The cook pours a ladleful with surgical precision. Miss a drop, and winter nights get longer. Someone jostles your elbow, broth sloshes, but doesn't spill. Steppe rule, spilled food means sharing with spirits. Your stomach growls, politely declining cosmic moochers. The liquid scalds your tongue. You taste juniper berries and regret. A toddler wobbles past, clutching a radish carved into a doll's head. Its face wears a pepper seed smile, nightmare fuel, or artisanal toy. The cook tosses the kid a dumpling it's intercepted midair by a grinning guard. Ice cracks underfoot as you retreat, the bowl's warmth fading too fast. A whisper rises. Apprentices argue over who must scrub charred pots. One claims wolf grease makes scrubbing easier, a lie taller than the Altai Mountains. Your breath fogs the broth, now floating with cold, fat islands. 3 sips left. You ration them like a miser counting arrowheads. The cook's wife appears, her sleeves stained with yogurt cultures. She drops a dollop into your bowl, instant tang that kicks your sinuses awake. Stars multiply above the cauldron's glow, paints dancers on nearby tents. A drunkard croons off-key his ballad about a lovesick yak herder. The cook throws a turnip, strikes a drum instead. Musical accident or improvised percussion. Camp life blurs the line. Someone knocks over a salt jar. White crystals bleed into the dirt. Elders tusk each grain a tiny tragedy. The cook salvages a pinch, sprinkles it into the fire. Blue flames leap, sulfur, and superstition tango in the smoke. Your empty bowl becomes a hand warmer, carved birchwood, now imprinted with your palms. The kitchen boy offers seconds, his eyebrows singed from leaning too close to flames. You decline, aware of the tightrope walk between warmth and needing to pee in frozen darkness. Laughter erupts. A wrestler challenges the cook to arm wrestle using ladles. Bets flow faster than broth, goat, cheese versus fox, fur mittens. The cook wins, snatches the wager's mid-brag. Professional hazard when your forearms built from stirring 3-ton cauldrons. Wind steals the fire's roar, silence floods back between gusts. Bowls clatter in a wash tub. The rhythm syncs with distant owl hoots. Your eyelids droop, cumin-scented dreams beckon. The cook snaps his towel, a warning shot against stealing the last dumpling. Dawn's first blush creeps. The cauldron's bottom crusts into a burnt mosaic. You return your bowl, its rim kissed by 100 chapped lips. The cook nods, stirring ashes into tomorrow's fire starter. Somewhere, a horse neighs. Breakfast begins before the stars finish fading. A brown-red dawn leaks across the horizon. Your boots crunch through salt-crusted mud. Camels hunker like grumpy boulders, their groans deeper than temple bells. Wool bales slump sideways, straps biting into matted fur. You'd complain too, carrying someone else's silk underwear across a continent. A teenage boy crouches, murmuring into a bull camel's foamy muzzle. His words vanish into the beast's sour breath, a mix of half-digested thorns and regret. Ride the wind, old friend, standard caravan aphrodisiac for grumpy dromedaries. Doesn't help that Bactrian camels can haul over 400 pounds. Or so the Persian tax collectors claimed. One camel bucks, its load of porcelain cups clinking like panicked laughter. The boy untangles a slipped pack, fingers darting under protesting groans. Ever hear a camel curse? It's all guttural vowels and phlegmy consonants, nature's least charming ASMR. You grab a stray rope, blisters from yesterday's ride flare, like tiny sunburns. Historians still argue whether Mongol cameleers preferred hemp or leather harnesses. This caravan uses both, plus a suspicious amount of wishful thinking. The boy rubs sheep fat onto raw patches, beast and human wincing in unison. A handler tosses dried apricots. Camels snap them midair with unsettling precision. Their split lips reveal yellowed teeth, dentistry's greatest cautionary tale. Quirky tidbit: some traders believed camel breath warded off sand demons. Judging by your watering eyes, it definitely keeps humans at bay. The lead camel sways, its knee joints popping like greenwood in fire. Ajax is carved into its saddle, a Greek name surviving on the steppe. Weird flex, how his Byzantine groom got traded for 8 sheep's worth of felt. Loads secured, the boy presses his forehead to the bull camel's neck. They share a heartbeat, or maybe it's just indigestion. A handler barks. The convoy lurches forward. The boy jogs alongside, his shadow stretching into a man's shape for 3 golden seconds. You spy a dropped figurine, a felt camel, no bigger than your thumb. Its stitched eyes follow you, Mongolian voodoo, or forgotten child's toy. The boy snatches it, tucks it into the bull's headstall as a charm. Sun climbs. The camel's groans sink into a ragged chorus. Their footfalls shuffle through dust, printing the steppe with transient hieroglyphs. One pauses to nibble saxol thorns, defying all logic and taste buds. A pack slips again. Ceramic shards skitter across the trail. The boy reties it, fingers bleeding through frayed wrappings. Someone laughs, 3rd time's the charm. Steppe humor, always kinder when shouted from a distance. Shadows shorten. The caravan becomes a centipede of wool and sweat. The boy hums, off-key, same tune, the weaver plucked last night. Camels flick their ears, rhythm section for this mobile disaster symphony. At the noon halt, he offers Ajax water from his own battered skin. The camel drinks, then headbutts him, into a puddle of its making. Karma's a bitch, especially with a 2-ton accomplice. You pass the boy a mutton strip. He shares it with Ajax. Priorities when your ride could yeet you into the afterlife over a sugar cube. The camel's rumble vibrates your ribs. Subsonic forgiveness or pending gastric catastrophe. Wind steals the boy's hat. He sprints after it like a panicked hare. Ajax watches lethargic amusement in those lashed eyes. The hat's doomed. Steppe winds are Darwinism with a sense of humor. Dust veils the sun. The world becomes a sepia photograph. Camels huddle, forming a living wall against the grit. You press into Ajax's flank. His stink, now a perverse comfort. The storm passes, revealing 37 new gray hairs on the boy's head. He checks Ajax's load, whispering about oasis rumors. Camels snort, equal parts skepticism and airborne mucus. By dusk, the bull camel's groans soften into sighs. The boy walks barefoot, boots dangling from Ajax's saddle like bizarre fruit. Friction soars, blisters. Trade secrets stay between cameleers and their beasts. Stars emerge. The convoy halts where ancient carvings scar a rock face. The boy traces a weathered horse etching, Ajax's breath warm on his neck. Someone lights dung cakes. The fire smells like regret and tomorrow's travel. The dung fire pops, its smoke threading through cracked constellations above. You huddle closer. The astrologer's shadow stretches toward you like a crooked sundial. She kneels, bone dice clatter, on a felt mat stitched with star maps. 3 tosses, 37 grooves worn into the ivory from lifetimes of maybe. Her fingernail traces the fall, one die wedged between Scorpius and a tea stain. The mare's road darkens. She mutters a phrase not taught in any imperial observatory. Camel dung smoke curls around her headdress, crow feathers trembling at each wheeze. Historians still argue whether Mongol stargazers tracked comets or just the emperor's indigestion. A handler coughs, 3 quick hacks that scatter the dice. The astrologer glares her left eye milky from a childhood pox. Broken lines demand silence. She hisses. You swallow a joke about divination via phlegm, Steppe etiquette 101. She retrieves the dice, wiping them on a sleeve crusted with old meals. Fact, Genghis Khan's armies consulted star readers before battles, or maybe just stole their almanacs. The dice fly again. One lodges in a crack between stones. The earth rejects your question, she declares. Convenient when the answer might mean delaying tomorrow's march. Ajax snores nearby, his saddlebags leaking strands of crimson silk. The astrologer plucks one, ties it around a die like a bleeding comet. Quirky tidbit. Some diviners swore red threads confused malevolent spirits. Judging by her scowl, it's not confusing enough. A night watchman leans in. Do the stars favor the eastern pass? She spits. The dice show twin crescents, a symbol even rookies know means ask again after vodka. The guard stomps off, muttering about charlatans and wasted mutton bribes. You notice her mat's corner a child's doodle of a six-legged camel. She covers it, but not before you glimpse charcoal smudges older than the Khan's empire. The dice whisper across the felt, to land face down. Dust veils the moon's truth, she sighs. Professional stargazer code for I need better lighting. Wind lifts the star map, revealing a tattoo on her wrist. 12 dots forming the Pleiades, or maybe a sheep brand. Her hands cage the dice, knuckles white as desert salt. The sky's scales tilt toward water, she announces. 5 people immediately check their water skins. A scout laughs. There's no river for 3 days' ride. The astrologer sniffs. Korkai's horse pisses southward. Follow its steam at dawn. Cold comfort. But the scout nods like she's named his firstborn. The bull camel groans. Its belly gurgles sync with the dice rolls. The boy from earlier creeps closer, offering the astrologer a shriveled apple. She pockets it, tosses him a die marked with falcon wings. For luck, she grumbles. He tests its weight, tongue poking through missing teeth. Dice clack, revealing 4 dots and a chip resembling the Big Dipper. Merchants will weep, she intones. Someone gasps. A silk trader clutches his chest. The astrologer adds, from the Saharan dust in their eyes. Relief and eye rolls ripple through the crowd. Midnight wind flips her mat, scattering tools into shadows. You help gather sheep knucklebones polished by prophecy, their grooves warm despite the chill. One bears teeth marks, student or hungry marmot. The astrologer tucks it away, the sort of detail apprentices don't mention in scrolls. She lights a twist of sage, its sweetness battling dung smoke. The archer's bowstring frays, she warns. 3 people touch their bow cases. A cook crosses himself, odd gesture for a Buddhist caravan. The sage sputters. She interprets this as the gods are cheap drunks. Ajax farts, a Richter scale event that shakes dice and dignity. The astrologer waves smoke, mutters about portents in methane. You stifle a laugh, she snaps a die against your boot. Respect the mysteries, she growls. It rolls into a puddle, showing 7 dots now blurred by mud. Dawn licks the horizon. The astrologer packs her tools with stiff fingers. The boy returns, falcon die gleaming in his palm. Keep it, she rasps. But never wager what your shadow weighs at noon. He nods, wise advice, when your shadow's half raisin from dehydration. She kicks apart the fire, burying the last ember beneath a sheep's shoulder blade. The caravan stirs, men cinching saddles, women repacking angst. You spot the astrologer's dice slipping from her pouch, rolling toward Ajax's hooves. She lets them lie, the camel's next step, embedding one into the earth. Wind sweeps the steppe, carrying her final sigh to the clouds. Wait, was that an actual sigh, or just the dead grass bending? The sky keeps its secrets, along with your stolen flask of fermented mare's milk. The horizon bruises purple, a contusion spreading behind inkblot clouds. You tighten your scarf, grit already scoring your back teeth. Ropes creak, camel hair cords, thrumming like overstrung lutes. A silk trader mutters ancient Uyghur curses, each syllable a percussion instrument. 3 horsemen trot past, their mounts' nostrils flared at ozone's metallic tang. Fact, Mongol caravans used camel sinew ropes during storms, which explains the stench when wet. The lead rider gestures east, where cloudbillows scrape the steppe. His map case flaps, parchment, protesting the coming temper tantrum. Canvas snaps overhead, the communal tent heaving like a suffocating whale. You grab a guiline palm burning as the fibers slice skin. Quirky tidbit, some drivers swore goat fat wax on ropes pleased wind spirits. Judging by this circus, they preferred their tribute unpaid. A boy struggles with a water barrel, its wooden slats sweating premature tears. Hurry, barks a woman tossing sandbags onto stacked tea bricks. The barrel rolls, crushing a weaver's half-finished hat. Historians still argue whether steppe storms inspired throat singing or just laryngitis. Thunder gargles, a deep indigestion rumble from celestial bowels. You count seconds, 18 Mississippis before the next grumble. Safe for now, if you trust the astrologer's lightning stays west prediction. Lightning laughs, forked tongues licking the exact spot she'd pointed. A cook wrestles his cauldron, millet porridge slopping onto his boots. Needs salt anyway, he gripes, kicking muck over the spill. The wind approves, whisking his hat into a spiraling waltz with dead grass. The chieftain's tent glows, shadow puppets arguing inside. One mime shakes a scroll, another stabs the air with a spoon. Consensus, they're either debating detours or the proper way to cook marmot. Rain's first cold kiss hits your neck, a scout's warning shot. More follow, a staccato invasion marching across leather tarps. Someone yelps, their dropped ladle becomes a sacrificial offering to the mud gods. Traders dive for crates, fingers scrabbling at wax seals gone tacky in the damp. Silk hates water. Wails a merchant clutching bolts to his chest like doomed infants. His apprentice rolls her eyes, mouthing idiot to the drenched sheep nearby. The astrologer trudges past, hooded cloak billowing like a disgruntled bat. She pauses, squinting at clouds, as if reading tomorrow's grocery list. The sky ox bellows, she proclaims. No one asks for clarification, the metaphor's too juicy to ruin. Gusts redouble, a petulant child shaking its snow globe. Tense bow poles groaning under the weight of celestial disapproval. A dog howls its dirge answered by creaking wagon axles. You spot Ajax, the bull camel sitting like a fuzzy boulder. Rain mats his fur into muddy dreadlocks. He chews indifferent to chaos or the sacred herbs tangled in his cud. Lightning detonates, a photo negative of the world burned into your retinas. Thunder follows, 5 seconds closer. The camp exhales, then explodes into frenzied activity. A child's forgotten doll tumbles past, its felt face dissolving into a mud gargoyle. You lun, saving it from becoming storm propaganda. Its button eyes stare, accusing you of misplaced priorities. Hail arrives, pea-sized spite pellets stinging every inch of exposed skin. A driver swears, inventing 7 new verbs for pummel. The cook's cauldron rings like a gong, culinary ASMR turned weaponized percussion. The chieftain emerges, roar slicing through bedlam. Double the ropes, bury the salt. Men scramble knee-deep in slurry that used to be a trade route. You crouch behind a waterlogged cart, watching the storm rewrite the landscape. The horizon's gone, swallowed by a ravenous blur of gray and green. Something slams into your side, a runaway saddle blanket fleeing its post. The astrologer's voice cuts through, a raspberry seed in an oatmeal sermon. Seek the lean-to, she points to a half-collapsed structure already hosting 2 goats and a panicked hen. You sprint, a comic slow-motion wade through ankle-sucking mud. Hail tattoos the lean-to's roof, a death metal lullaby. The hen glares its feathers, doing a wet cat impression. Outside, the world dissolves into a watercolor nightmare. You press against splintered wood, inhaling wet sheep and someone's fierce sweat. The storm howls, a feral chorus, hunting anything not nailed down. Somewhere, a camel belches. The hen pecks your boot, demanding rent for this shitty airbnb. You toss it a hailstone, the microwave burrito of the steppe. It clucks unimpressed by your survival instincts. Rain drills the earth, liquid nails pinning the caravan in place. Lightning flickers, revealing the cook trying to lash his hat back together with noodles. The storm snorts, blowing them into the next province. Silence crashes down, so abrupt your ears ring. Even the goats freeze, suspicious of this practical joke. You peek out, clouds retreating like a pickpocket, vanishing into a crowd. Drizzle mists the wreckage, a pathetic coda to the symphony. The chieftain's voice rises hoarse but triumphant. Check the loads. Tend the beasts. A donkey brays, its opinion of leadership crystal clear. You squelch toward Ajax, his fur now a mud-crusted art installation. He blinks, long lashes, shedding raindrop diamonds. The storm's fingerprint remains, puddles mirroring the bruised sky, and your stolen flask peeking from the muck. The healer's tent sags, waterlogged felt dripping onto crushed juniper branches. You duck inside, lungs filling with pine resin and despair. A mortar clinks, porcelain grinding something that smells like regret and licorice. 3 patients shiver on flea-ridden mats, their fever, sweat gluing wool blankets to skin. Fact, Mongol healers prized ephedra for colds, though overdosing could make you see dancing marmots. The healer scowls, her bone needle stitching a gash, while muttering about idiots who dance with lightning. She thrusts a clay cup at you, steam writhing like cursed smoke. Drink. It tastes like boiled saddles and honey's dead cousin. Your gag reflex tap dances, but the fever breaks before you finish retching. Moonlight bleeds through smoke holes, illuminating jars, labeled in shaky Sogdian script. One reads wolf bone powder with a doodle of, "Is that a bear riding a yak?" Quirky tidbit, some healers buried gallstones bones under campfires to steal a disease's strength. Tonight's blaze crackles, extra vengeful. A child whimpers, arm swollen, where a scorpion mistook him for a welcome mat. The healer slathers a green paste, stinking of fermented garlic and poor life choices. Horseweed and crow's bile, she snaps. Complain, and I'll add hedgehog spines. Historians still argue whether Mongol salves cured infections or just distracted patients with sheer horror. You watch the boy's eyes cross as the poultice oozes like swamp sin. Outside, Ajax the camel belches. The healer freezes, then dumps a powder into her flames. Sparks erupt, forming a brief, sneezing image of a woman riding a three-headed eagle. Bad omen, she grumbles. Means the Ganbatter spirit wants tribute. You glance at your stolen flask, half buried in mud by the tent flap. The healer follows your gaze. 5 drops, she demands. For the pain, you obey, whiskey mingling with her nightmare brew. She chants a guttural hymn that vibrates your molars. The Kaleem rug beneath you squirms, or maybe that's the ephedra kicking in. Shadows curl, liquid night, pooling around a jar labeled mummified bat wings, probably. A crash, the apprentice trips over a wolf skull collection. Useless, the healer roars, tossing a dried frog at his head. It sticks, legs splayed across his forehead like a grotesque tiara. Dawn creeps closer, the moon's salve on your brow, now hardening into a crusty crescent. Patients snore, their nightmares punctuated by the pestil's a rhythmic thunk. The healer collapses onto a stool, wiping her hands on a rag already stiff with blood and myth. Her pouch gapes open, revealing feather bundles, rodent teeth, and a suspiciously human molar. Hungry, she smirks, offering a strip of jerky that smells of existential dread. You decline. The hen from the linta struts in, pecking at the molar like it's a pistachio. Wind sneaks through the tent flap, scattering sulfur yellow powder across the floor. The healer hisses, a sound that shrivels your spleen. 36 years gathering that cursed pollen. She sweeps it into a vial, tossing in a spider for good measure. A soldier staggers in, forehead branded with fresh burns. Lightning kissed me, he slurs. The healer snorts. Kissed, more like bit. She rubs char into the wound, humming a tune that makes your fillings ache. Your flask lies empty, its dented body reflecting the first milky hints of sunrise. The healer pockets it. Payment, she says. Behind her, the boy's scorpion wound now sports a scab shaped like Mongolia. Outside, the caravan stirs. A donkey brays, its voice hoarse from last night's weather tantrum. The healer kicks you toward the exit. Go, before I test my new spleen crusher ointment. You stumble into Dawn's gray embrace, tongue still numb from her potions. Ajax plods past, stinking of wet fur and cosmic indifference. Somewhere, a wolf howls. The healer's laugh follows, a dry rasp, as she begins grinding fresh horrors. The sand shifts under your boots each step, erasing the one before. A cracked water gourd rolls past, its stopper, long lost, to some other traveler's desperation. You pause, toes brushing a half-buried shred of silk. Imperial yellow, once reserved for Chinese emperors, now just another rag for the steppe to claim. A horned skull grins up from the dust, goat or human. Hard to tell when time gets chewing. Fact, Mongol traders used sheep anklet bones as dice, and sometimes as messengers, identification tokens. This one's polished smooth, centuries of thumbs rubbing anxiety into bone. You pocket it. The wind disapproves, howling through a ribcage of rocks. Shadows stretch their fingers clawing east. A melody threads through the gale. Or maybe it's your ears begging for pattern. Your horse snorts, hooves scuffing at a buried saddlebag. The leather crumbles, spewing moldy tea bricks, and a silver hairpin shaped like a phoenix. Quirky tidbit, some merchants sewed gems into their horses' monnets to smuggle them past tax outposts. This nag's tangled forelock hides nothing but burrs and poor life choices. The song sharpens, a man's voice frayed by centuries. Arag spills, stars grow cold, the words warp Uyghur. Sogdian, your mule bolts, kicking up a scarf embroidered with 8-armed demons. Historians still argue whether the Silk Road suicide caravans were real, or just drunk chroniclers mishearing funeral chants. Sand stings your cheeks, needling you toward a sandstone outcrop. Firelight flickers ahead, except when you blink, it's gone. Your water skin sloshes mockingly. The chant swells. 7 graves, 8 lies, a silhouette materializes, robes flapping like a gutted tent. You freeze. The figure circles, its face a blur of wind and ash. It drops something, a ceramic shard glazed with cobalt waves. Yuan dynasty maritime trade, proof they reached Zanzibar. Doesn't help you now. The ghost wails, a sound like rusty nails on a monastery bell. Your horse bolts, dragging you toward a skeletal tamarisk tree. A rotted pack frame clings to its branches, dangling camel teeth on sinew strings. The chant drills into your skull. Find the well, dig with your tongue. You gag on the thirst, suddenly understanding why madmen eat sand. Moonlight betrays a mosaic underfoot, shattered porcelain, arranged in a tiger's face. 16th century compensation symbols. Traders left them to appease mountain spirits after thefts. 2 bad tigers hate liars. Your stolen sheep bone burns in your pocket, the ghost's breath now hot on your neck. Daughter of foxes, a rock dents your boot, tripping you into a pit lined with salt bricks. Storage cellar, salt tax evasion trick. The specter looms, singing through a jawbone flute. Khan's taxman cheats the worms. Your fingers claw the bricks, nails splitting as the walls crumble. Dawn leaks through the cracks, false hope in jaundiced light. The ghost dissolves, its final note curling into a vulture's cry. You crawl free, lips bleeding, cradling the sheep knuckle die. The caravan's bells jingle half a mile northeast. Ajax the camel spits at your approach, reeking of divine judgment. The healer's apprentice finds you later, spitting salt and curses. Saw the singer, A. He smirks, tossing you a waterskin. 3 traders vanished here last autumn. Their guide got rich buying up abandoned silk. The liquid tastes of suspicion and lukewarm mare's milk. By noon, the dunes swallow the outcrop. Your phantom's song now haunts the back teeth, a molar's dull throb. The apprentice hums along off-key. Ahead, the horizon bleaches into oblivion. You roll the sheep bone between your palms, its numbers worn to ghosts. Snake eyes. Always snake eyes. Dawn creeps in pink, smearing the eastern sky like a berry crushed under heaven's thumb. Frost glitters, 1,000 tiny mirrors mocking your chapped lips. You blink, last night's salt still crusting your lashes. The camp groans awake, a symphony of coughs and stretching leather. Fact, Mongol horsemen once licked ice from their mounts' coats to gauge the day's ride. Your tongue sticks to a tent rope, regretting every life choice since Samarkand. A hoarse laugh rasps behind you, the baker's boy scraping frost into a brass bowl. For the tea, he grins, one tooth blackened from last winter's fight, with a fermented mare's milk jug. Quirky tidbit, some healers swore frost gathered before dawn cured impotence. Though results may vary, he offers a pinch. It tastes of dirt and stolen childhood. You decline, politely, mostly. The frost isn't idle. It etches secrets on every surface, gossamer feathers on saddle blankets, fractals crawling up yak wool tents. Your breath hangs, a ghost debating whether to haunt you another day. Someone's horse urinates, the steam rising like a territorial spirit. Historians still argue whether Mongols read, whether in ice patterns, or just cursed louder when their fingers froze. Across the camp, a toddler licks a tent pole. Immediate regret, immediate wailing. Campfires stutter to life, smoke curling into the bruised sky. You spot the chieftain's wife kneeling to inspect frostbitten camel ankles. Her breath puffs sharp as her muttered diagnoses. Stupid as a snow leopard in a sandstorm, she declares. The camel burps, a rebuttal lost to the morning hush. There's a rhythm here, a drowsy dance of survival. Fingers numbly tying bootlaces, voices bargaining with stubborn flint strikers. The scout you half ghosted last night shuffles past, eyes bloodshot, clutching a wineskin of something that smells like regret. He nods, a truce sealed in mutual exhaustion. You toss him the frost-crusted sheep knuckle from your pocket. Snake eyes still leer. Always snake eyes. A pot clangs. The scent of scorched barley gruel hits like a debt collector. You join the line, shoulder to shivering shoulder. The cook slops portions with a ladle bent during the siege of Baghdad, or so he claims. Every damn morning, the gruel coats your throat, highlighting exactly where those legendary Mongol hospitality ballads went to die. Someone farts. The man next to you mutters, "Bless you." Breakfast entertainment. Sunrise proper now, gold peeling back the frost's delicate work. Ice melt drips from tent peaks, tiny hourglasses counting down the march. A herdswoman unwinds her scarves, revealing cheeks mapped with old wind-burned scars. She winks, tossing you a sliver of frozen curd. It's like chewing on a tundra's thumbnail. You smile, because survival's 10% calories and 90% not strangling your comrades. The chieftain emerges, his shadow stretching across 3 provinces. He sniffs the air, a man deciphering meteorology through nasal alchemy. Frost crunches under his boots, the steppe's bones protesting winter's weight. You both watch a hawk spiral upward, its screech shredding the dawn. Good day to ride, he growls. Translation: prepare your blistered backside for 8 hours of creative suffering. Packing begins, an art form, half ritual, half mild panic. You roll a felt blanket, only to find a hibernating grass snake smugly coiled inside. It hisses, a tiny philosopher questioning your life's purpose. The baker's boy volunteers to bite its head off. You decline, politely, mostly. Snake evicted, you strap your gear, fingerless gloves clinging to dignity by a thread. Last check, waterskins frozen solid. Of course, you hold one between your thighs like an ungrateful child. Body heat versus apathy. Place your bets. The herdswoman snorts, city soft. She smashes hers against a rock, shards of ice glinting like dragon scales. You reconsider life choices. Again, the horizon pulses hungry for your footprints. Frost surrenders, reduced to damp stains on the earth. The caravan creaks forward, a caterpillar armored in resilience and questionable body odor. Behind the abandoned campsite sighs, its secrets refrozen until the next desperate soul arrives. You spit and watch the saliva crackle midair. 10 points. Maybe today won't suck. The caravan halts, smoke threadbare from cold stiffened lungs. You kneel where yesterday's ashes lie, charcoal crumbs in a ring of half-melted permafrost. Flint strikes steel, a spark drowns in darkness. Again, a Mongol triad: patience, cheap jokes, and blasphemy. Historical fact: they treasured birch bark tinder when the taiga wasn't 300 miles west. Your numb fingers fumble, someone's boot crunches ice beside you. City hands need city fires. Grunts the wheelwright, her palms scarred from axle grease and bad marriages. She spits into the ash pile. It hisses like a disrespected ancestor. Quirky tidbit: some traders carried ox femur marrow as emergency fuel, though it smelled like roasting regret. She lobs a dried dung patty into your lap. It still bears tooth marks. You don't ask. The 5th spark catches, an orange wink in the gloom. You shield it like a newborn airflow calculated through chattering teeth. Flames snake through yak hair, kindling the heat, warms your left eyebrow. Progress. Someone tosses a frozen water skin. It sizzles against the stones. Historians still argue whether Mongols used horse dung for fires out of wisdom or just spite. The hearth pulses, a heartbeat rekindled. Fingers crowd the blaze, thawing, cracking, bleeding. The chieftain's 3rd cousin roasts a scrap of mystery meat, claims it's cured. Suspiciously resembles last week's saddle sore dressing. You nibble. Regret tastes vaguely of salt and bad decisions. Dawn strengthens, pale light licks the steps' curve. A herder drapes frozen socks over the flames. They steam, sending up sacrificial tendrils to any god listening. You trade frost-bitten insults with the scout. His breath reeks of fermented something. He claims icicles make excellent toothpicks. His smile suggests otherwise. The fire spreads, not warmth, but the rumor of warmth. A child offers a stone charred black, a baked rock pillow for your horse. You accept. The mare side-eyes you. Loyalty's a fickle beast. Someone hums, a tune older than Genghis's great-great-grandfather's favorite dentures. The flames dip, agreeing with the melody. Fact, Mongol hearths burned 24/7 when possible. But try telling that to a snowdrift. You toss in a resin knot from your pocket. The fire crackles approvingly. Sunlight finally ambushes the camp. The hearth's glow reduced to a shy cousin. Cookpots appear filled with snow and yesterday's tea leaves. The brew tastes like regret, filtered through a yak. You drink. Survival's a bitter sommelier. Boots stamp rhythmically, restoring circulation through sheer stubbornness. The wheelwright winks, tossing you a wedge of frozen cheese. It's been used as a wheel chalk. You eat it anyway. Protein's protein. The chieftain strides through camp, kicking the dying fire. Embers swirl like drunken fireflies. His expression says restart the inferno or become fuel. You heap on dung patties. The flames roar back, though the stench could strip paint. By mid-morning, the hearth's a memory, a black smudge on the step's pale cheek. Fingers flex, stiffness replaced by blisters. The caravan lurches forward, destination hazy through ice-flecked eyelashes. You pocket a warm stone for the next apocalypse. Sun climbs higher, its rays feeble but persistent. Flesh thaws, clothes stay crisp as past due tax documents. Ahead, a snow hare watches, then bolts. Smart creature. Less paperwork. The horizon flattens, dawn's tentative embrace, hardening into a midday chokehold. You squint, sunlight glinting off distant ice. The road groans, or maybe that's your stomach. Either way, it promises nothing. You spit, watch gravity claim its due. The steppe yawns, indifferent and endless. Mud-spattered boots sink, ankle deep, by the chieftain's tent flap. You recognize the scout's gait, legs bowed from decades of outrunning weather and wolves. His left stirrup dangles, leather chewed by something toothier than time. Historians note Mongol scouts rode up to 400 miles between dawns, but none mention how their thighs screamed for mercy. He spits a glob of dirt and defiance. The chieftain emerges, frost clinging to his wolf fur collar like reluctant diamonds. Their exchange rattles in throaty bursts, a dialect older than saddle sores. You catch river and lichen, and what might be rotten luck. Quirk of the trade, some scouts greased their boots with marmot fat to mute footsteps, though it attracted bears more than stealth did. A map unfurls, crackling like old skin. Fingers stab at a valley marked with sheep dung. The scout's nail traces a path, detour scribbled in berry juice. You note his pinkies missing, an old toll paid to frostbite, or a gambling debt. He grins, 3 teeth, gold-stained from chewing iron-rich steppe grass. Wind riffles the tent's felt walls, breathing secrets through stitched seams. The chieftain grunts, a sound that could mean approval or impending homicide. The scout tugs his earlobe twice, tribal code for paths clear but spiteful. Historians still argue whether scouts used smoke signals or just made it up as they rode. Boots squelch backward, retreating with the grace of a beaten hound. The scout tosses you a mud-caked flask. It sloshes something between mare's milk and motor oil. You sip. Regret tastes like fermented bad decisions again. He gestures east, where the sky bruises into twilight. 3 days, he croaks. If the crows don't gossip, Mongol messengers trained birds to track water sources, though yours just peck your hat like it owes them coin. Someone's child darts past, dragging a toy cart of pebbles. The scout pats their head, then pockets a stone. Insurance against thirsty ghosts. He winks. Night watch will miss that rock by dawn. The chieftain barks. A dozen men snap to attention like prairie dogs spotting eagles. Orders ripple, horses reshoed. Saddlebags swapped. Prayer ribbons reknotted. You tighten a loose strap, fingers slipping on ice-glazed leather. Fact, Mongol saddles weighed less than a sleeping infant, but felt like anvils after week 12. Dusk stains the horizon, campfires bloom in its shadow. The scout collapses by your hearth, boots steaming like freshly pissed snow. He gnaws a strap of jerky, possible yak, possible regrets. His eyes close, dreaming of paths not taken, or maybe just better lunches. Stars emerge sharp as scout blades. The chieftain's tent glows, a lantern swaying like a drunkard's confession. You study the rerouted map. Rivers bend where they shouldn't. Hills crest like a baker's failed souffle. The road less traveled smells suspiciously of wolf scat. He snores, a rhythmic honk that scares off nearby rodents. You pocket the berry-stained map corner. Souvenir or kindling. The steppe doesn't care. Your horse nuzzles the scout's boot, hoping for salt or revenge. Dawn arrives pale and disinterested. The scout vanishes, hoofbeats swallowed by frosted grass. The caravan shifts, a serpent waking to shed its skin. Ahead, the unknown, behind a trail of dung fires and dumb choices. You adjust your grip. The horizon hasn't moved, but your blisters have. You heave a sack of grain, barley kernels rattling like a gambler's last coins. Bactrian camels huff, their double humps sagging under crates of rusted spices. Fact, these beasts could haul 300 pounds for 18 days straight. But today, they glare at you like underestimated interns. A boy tosses burlap bundles stuffed with salted goat and apricot bricks. One misses your grip, exploding into a dust cloud of cinnamon and regret. Quirk of the trade, some drivers lined saddlebags with dried yak dung, insulation, and emergency tinder. You pray this sack's clean. Straps bite your palms, frayed edges whispering threats of future blisters. Across camp, a blacksmith pounds dents from a cauldron, clangs syncing with your headache. The chieftain's wife inspects every knot, her critique sharper than a shaving knife. Historians still argue whether Mongols navigated by stars or landmarks. But right now, you'd follow a drunk pigeon for a nap. You cinch a rope, knotting it 3 times like the old smith taught you. His voice echoes in your skull tighten till it hums, loose enough to strangle a fool. Camel breath warms your neck. It smells of hay and existential despair. 3 more saddles to go. A girl offers a water skin. You guzzle liquid that tastes like licking a mineral deposit. She giggles, pointing at your dust-stained chin. Fine, let the caravan artist mock. Her last mural depicted a horseman falling into a latrine. Artistic honesty stings. The final crate cracks open, revealing mildewed carpets from some doomed merchant's stock. You shake one out, centuries of moth rebellions float into the sunlight. A scorpion skitters free, straight into the boot of the man who owes you coin. Karma's a swift little arthropod. Dust settles. The reloaded caravan creaks like a wooden symphony. Someone's donkey brays, a sound that could curdle fresh milk. You mount up, knees protesting like rusted hinges. The horizon waits patient as a debt collector. Breathe in steppe air, horse sweat, inevitability. Breathe out doubt, yesterday's mutton, the urge to flee. The chieftain shouts, his tone suggesting either inspiration or indigestion. Wheels groan, hooves pivot. Somewhere, a scout laughs around a campfire. Or maybe it's just the wind. You kneel beside the chieftain, damp grass seeping through worn trousers. Smoke curls upward from a clay bowl, charred juniper needles biting your nostrils. 3 generations of Mongols hum, a low drone that vibrates in your molars. Fact, Genghis Khan's troops sprinkled mare's milk to placate mountain spirits. Though this bowl reeks of fermented yak butter. A shaman presses a thumbprint of ash to your forehead, cold as a creditor's stare. Speak to the wind, she mutters. You mumble gratitude for not dying of dysentery, a real crowd pleaser in 13th century travelogues. Someone snorts. The sacred moment frays like cheap thread. Stones stacked nearby, each one a petition to some irritable deity. You add your pebble, wishing the next oasis isn't a mirage. Quirk of the steppe nomads once buried red silk under cairns to confuse evil spirits. You make a mental note to steal that trick for tax season. The chieftain pours sour milk onto the earth, a libation that attracts more flies than blessings. A boy sneaks a sip, grimaces, spits. His mother swats him with a stirrup. Laughter hiccups through the crowd, swallowed quick when the shaman glares. Historians still argue whether these rites were spiritual or just elaborate pest control. Fire pops, a spark lands on your sleeve. You smother it discreetly. No one needs an omen that obvious. The blacksmith offers a sliver of iron for courage. It weighs less than your unpaid bar tab. Mist clings to woolen cloaks, the kind of damp that outlasts prophecies. Distant eagle cries slice the gloom. You count 7, a lucky number, unless it's actually vultures practicing. The shaman begins removing her ritual bells, a relief after 2 hours of jingling like a tipsy tambourine. A girl tugs your belt, presses a felted rabbit into your palm. Guardian for your saddlebag, she whispers. You thank her, then spot 3 more kids hawking identical rabbits for a copper each. Capitalism thrives, even in piety. The caravan stirs, a restless ripple through horses and humans. Final prayers get rushed, syllables tripping over each other. Someone's donkey brays the melody of a funeral dirge. The chieftain kicks a rock. It rolls downhill, knocking over the sacred cairn. An elder gasps. 2 teens dive to rebuild it, archaeologists of a 5-minute-old tradition. You pocket the felt rabbit. Couldn't hurt. Behind you, a rider spits into the wind, a secular blessing. The horizon sharpens, edges bleeding gold. Steppe grass bows eastward, urging motion. Last sip of brick tea, bitter as a diplomat's smile. You mount up, boots squelching in mud, churned by 100 farewells. The shaman waves, or maybe shoes flies from her face. Either way, it's time. Hooves click, a rhythmless anthem. The cairn shrinks, a pebble pimple on the prairie's cheek. Your saddle creaks an echo. That fermented milk's aftertaste lingers, a ghost in your throat. The caravan's dust still hangs bitter on your tongue when the pebbles start flying. Kids swarm a patch of flattened earth, knees scabbed, fingernails packed with steppe dirt. A boy hurls a stone at 5 carved grooves in the dirt. It skids past the farthest notch. Victory yips erupt. You've seen dumber sports on ESPN. 9 points. He crows, though you only counted 7 bounces. His sister lobs a pebble, it arcs high, thunks into the 3rd groove. Elders murmur approval from their felt stools. Fact, Genghis's grandkids played similar games to hone their aim with slingshots. These brats just want bragging rights, and maybe your coin purse. A girl offers you a polished quartz for luck, her grins missing 2 teeth. You decline too late. She's already slipped a pebble into your boot. Steppe kids are pickpockets with better PR. Quirk, archaeologists found 12th century game pebbles carved with tiny horse heads, possibly the world's first trading cards. The eldest boy reenacts yesterday's trader ambush pebbles as bandits, a stick for his trusty saber. His death scene involves 5 minutes of dramatic wheezing. Someone tosses a dried apricot to shut him up. Historians still argue whether these games taught strategy or just fueled future soap opera actors. A toddler waddles past, dropping pebbles in a spiral pattern. An elder nudges you, keeps wolves away, he lies. You nod solemnly, same energy as hanging garlic to ward off vampires. 3 girls chant a rhyme while tossing stones left-handed. Superstition says it brings rain. The cloudless mocks them. You spot a cheat, palm-sized rocks substituted for pebbles. No one cares. The judge is a three-legged dog napping in the shade. A mother shouts corrections, throw from the elbow, altai. As if coaching Olympic idiocy, someone's baby sister eats a pebble. Panic. 0. Her brother pries it out third time this week. She wails, the universal soundtrack of poor life choices. An elder offers her a twist of dried curd. Tears stop mid-snivel. The game changes. Pebbles become currency. Grooves transform into palaces and prison pits. Rules mutate faster than plague strains. You lose track. A boy wins 7 rounds through aggressive finger-pointing. His prize, getting chased by losers with switch sticks. Dusk rubs the sky raw. Elders rise, bones creaking like stressed saddle leather. The field's now a colander of pebble holes. A girl kicks dust over the groove's burial for a day's worth of pretend kingdoms. You shake out your boot, that gifted pebble's gone. Of course, stars prick through the twilight. Laughter fades, swallowed by the steppe's vast yawn. Somewhere, a mother calls her brood home. The three-legged dog twitches, dreaming of easier games. You pocket a pebble, souvenir, or future ammunition. Depends on tomorrow's mood. Dough slaps onto clay, a sticky protest against the dying fire. You lean closer, baker's knuckles bloom with old burns as he slaps another lump against the oven's belly. Blisters rise like tiny volcanoes, golden brown at the edges. Fact, Mongol armies baked bread on saddle-sized slabs of iron war, and carbs forever entwined. A girl tumbles into the baker's workspace, cheeks dusted with flour. He flicks a pebble at her shins. Not your playground, altai. She retaliates by tossing a thyme sprig into his dough. The air thickens cumin, charred wheat, and teenage rebellion. You want tough bread, the baker growls, kneading the herb deeper. Now we've got teeth-breaking bread. His grin cracks like parched earth. Quirk archaeologists once found a 14th century loaf near Samarkand, with wolf hair baked inside. Possibly an ancient protein boost. The oven exhales, heat warping the moonlight. He yanks loaves free with hooked tongs. Crusts crackle like distant thunder. One's shaped like a horse hoof, homage to the beasts that hauled his flour here. You don't ask. Some art defies explanation. A boy barrels in trading 2 dried plums for the burnt end. Blackened crust, Mongol Doritos. The baker pockets the fruit for my terrible wife. His eyes crinkle. No wife exists. A lie as old as yeast. Steam spirals up, carrying the scent of tomorrow's journey. He soaks rags in mare's milk, wraps them around the last loaf, keeps it soft, he mutters. Historians still argue whether these ovens ever baked human meat during sieges. But let's not ruin the appetite. Moonlight paints his arms in flowery stripes. He nods to the stars. They're hungry too. You follow his gaze. Cassiopeia's chair looks like a crooked loaf tonight. The 3-legged dog limps over, sniffs the oven, decides disappointments better served cold. Dawn's first breeze sneaks in a thief stealing warmth. The baker slumps against his cooled clay. His fingers trace cracks in the oven's dome, whispers something about a daughter in Karakoram. You pretend not to hear. Grief needs no audience. He tosses you a heel of bread, still warm at its core. It tastes of smoke and shortcuts taken. Somewhere, a camel groans impatient for the road. The baker's eyes close, just for a breath, before the next batch demands his fists. You kneel beside a rider at camps, edge his forehead pressed to trampled grass. Ground still holds yesterday's hoof warmth. Fact, Mongol warriors carried pinches of homeland soil when invading distant lands, as if earth itself could be smuggled. His prayer beads click, carved from lynx bones. One cracks under his grip. Old trick, he mutters. Bad spirits hate the sound. Quirk grave robbers near the Altai Mountains still avoid tombs with scattered game pieces, fearing awakened board game curses. The wind steals his words, but you catch Tengri and mother's laughter. His thumb rubs a stirrup's rusted edge, leaving a coppery smudge. Above, vultures carve slow spirals. You count 7. He counts none. Dried mare's milk crunches under your knee. Rides on the ribs of clouds, he whispers. Historians still argue whether Genghis's death site was purposely lost or simply swallowed by the steppe's hunger. The rider spits 3 times over his left shoulder. A beetle flees the moisture, drowning in miniature. His braid unravels, streaked with gray he'll deny come dawn. He tucks a blue silk scrap into the soil, a treaty with the earth. You take this, he tells the ground. I take safe passage. Negotiations with dirt, always one-sided. Afar off, yak bellows. The rider flinches, smothers it with a cough. Pride weighs more than saddlebags here. He rubs crushed juniper into his mare's bit, bittersweet armor against road demons. You spot a child's tooth strung beside his knife, but ask no questions. Dawn bleeds through his knees. The prayer ends where it began, forehead to dirt, lips moving in practiced silence. When he rises, the ground keeps his shadow molded into crushed clover. No goodbyes, just a tightened girth strap and the next horizon. Steam blooms from twitching nostrils. The lead stallion stamps iron-shod hooves. You trace his neck's sweat-damp curve. Same muscled arch as Kublai's war horses on old scrolls. Fact, Mongol geldings could trot backwards to fake retreats. A trick that scattered enemies like startled quail. Bridles chime a dissonant orchestra of brass and bone. A stable boy adjusts a slipknot, embedding jade beads in the mane. Quirk, some Khalkha clans still braid raven feathers into ponies' tails, claiming it confuses jinn drawn to horse sweat. His hands tremble, but the mare nuzzles his ear. Crisis averted. Leather groans under shifting weight. Riders test stirrups, boot heels scraping decades of polish. You inhale hoof oil, charred lamb fat mixed with beeswax. Historians still argue whether Mongol mounts' legendary stamina came from fermented mare's milk, or the merciless sky hardening their lungs. A gelding sneezes, snot glistens on his rider's sleeve. No one laughs. The man licks the mess, whispers what might be a joke or a curse. His saddle's missing a rivet, replaced with what looks like a child's milk tooth. You pretend not to notice. Wind riffles through hay-loaded carts. A 4-year-old colt, all twitch and no grace, tries mounting a patient mule. His rider yanks him back, grinning through gritted teeth. Later, lover boy, the mule flicks an ear, indifferent as a mountain. Sunlight glints off a silver amulet, swinging beneath a mare's throat, its inscriptions worn smooth. But the shape suggests an onion dome or a pregnant womb. You lean closer, she nips your collar. Fair enough. Secrets stay saddled. A black stallion paws the earth, sending dust devils swirling. His rider murmurs, ancient tongue clicks that calm the storm. They say Badu Khan's favorite mount answered whistled verses from the Quran despite nobody teaching him Arabic. The stallion settles, but his eye stays wild. Birds scatter as whinnies slice the air. 10,000 horses once drowned here, or so local herders claim, in a lake that swallowed an arrogant general's cavalry. You study the hard-packed dirt. No ghosts, just ants hauling camel dung. A boy offers a mare his last sugar cube. She crunches it, then headbutts him for more. His laughter echoes off saddlebags, a bright counterpoint to creaking wood. Someone tosses him a dried apricot, bartered piece. The chieftain gelding arches its neck veins, mapping power beneath glossy hide. Passed down 13 generations, or so the songs insist. Its great-great-grandsire carried a princess to her wedding, then ate the floral arch. Priorities. Foam drips onto a rider's boot. He scowls, wipes it with sage, stuffs the herb back into a belt pouch. Waste not, even when it's horse spit. The sage will flavor tonight's tea, and no one will mention its origin. Breeze carries the reek of dung fires and ambition. A mare's flank twitches, dislodging 3 flies and a persistent metaphor. You count blisters on a novice's palms, each a badge of poorly tied knots. He'll learn or he'll walk, hooves shift, a restless tide before the storm of motion. One clicks oddly, a split nail patched with birch tar, almost musical, almost intentional. The farrier watches you notice, nods once. Trade secrets cling like burrs. Someone hums a lullaby for creatures built to run. The colt who loved the mule drops his head, suddenly meek. His rider slips a honeyed root into velvet lips. Bribery, the oldest saddling technique. Clouds mirror the herd's formation, streaks and clumps and daring outliers. Your shadow stretches toward the horizon, but the horses stretch faster. They've done this dance since the Altai's first sunrise, long before riders grabbed their manes and called it destiny. Iron bits clack, a language of boredom and readiness. You spot the prayer rider from dawn, his mare now jittery. That blue silk scrap hangs from her bridle, tattered treaty, fluttering like a surrender flag. The earth hasn't answered, but the road might. A whip cracks, but doesn't land. signals understood. Riders lean forward, sudden silence before the thunder, breath-held moment. Then 600 hooves find their rhythm. The steppe exhales, and the caravan resumes its argument with the horizon. Dust motes hang suspended. The chieftain's whistle slices them like a blade through smoke. Your eardrums throb. That bone flute tone, they say, could wake Genghis himself. Fact, archaeologists found iron whistles in Altai mountain graves, still wedged between horse skulls. Teeth, 6 centuries later. Camp noise dies mid-clang. A dropped ladle freezes above a cookpot. Even the ants pause, their crumparade halted by vibrations in the soil. Quirk steppe ravens mimic those whistles. Late travelers swear confused scouts followed birds into canyons. A toddler's wail starts, gets smothered in a wool-clad elbow. Priorities. The chieftain stands silhouetted. His gelding's ears form twin peaks against the sun. Riders mirror the pose, left palms flat on saddle horns. Historians still debate whether the gesture meant allegiance or just prevented itchy trigger fingers. Leather creaks, the only descent. Wind riffles a scout's unfastened map case, documents over 50 years old. Tea-stained a ND Chinese letter, with hair glue flutter like captive doves. You spot a sketched mountain, its peak bent unnaturally westward. The cartographer either had tremors or knew something Google Earth still misses. A mare shakes her mane, brass charms clatter a forbidden protest. Her rider pinches the bridle, silence reclaimed. One charm bears Cyrillic lettering from the 1970s, souvenir from a Moscow black market saddler. The past clings like cockleburrs here. Sun glares off the chieftain's silver thumb ring, a torque-shaped cleaning rod for antique rifles. He rotates it twice, eyes locked beyond the Karakum's shimmering lies. 3 horsemen shade their faces with Soviet-era newspapers. Pravda headlines bleached to ghosts. Your boot grinds something brittle, a locust carcass, or maybe last week's flatbread. Doesn't matter. All movement belongs to the chieftain now. His gelding sidesteps, hooves etching fresh hieroglyphics in the dust. Code unbroken since the Huayton Pass massacres. A camel groans, its protest dies as the whistle's echo fades. Someone's stomach growls, the camp's last rebellion. You smell fierce sweat masked by cumin and the sharp tang of graphite from whetstones. Blades won't save them from whatever comes next. The chieftain's gloved hand rises, index finger extended like a gun barrel. Arms lift across the caravan, a forest of willing targets. Protocol demands stillness, but eyelids blink at Morse code speeds. A prayer or a nervous tick. Same difference out here. His finger shifts northwest, palm open now, as if weighing the horizon. Dawn light carves his scars into topographic maps, ridges, marking battles even bards won't sing. The gelding pivots, trained to turn before the command leaves human lips. A sigh ripples through the ranks, relief or resignation depends on the debtor. Stirrups adjust, testicles, knives, sanity. You count 13 magpies in a gnarled poplar, European superstition, clashing with Mongol practicality. Neither side wins. The whistle trills again, 2 short bursts. A falconer's signal stolen by logistics. Teen riders kick adolescent mounts, their eagerness outrunning sense. Elders mutter, comparing this departure to Timur's chaotic march on Smyrna. But hey, at least nobody's building a skull pyramid yet. Whips crackle, but only the wind gets lashed. Reins snap taut, an interconnectedness that would make a neuroscientist weep. Muscle memory propels hooves. No conscience. No bank loans, just the steps rhythm section. The chieftain's whistle still vibrating in fillings. Gear shifts, pots clank, a string of profanity in Mandarin. The Beijing merchant's mule balks, until a poisoned glare from an 80-year-old archer changes its mind. Don't underestimate the power of ancestors who shot wolves from horseback at 5. You spot the gap, 2 horses missing from the left flank. Their riders nurse injuries or debts. The chieftain notices too, his nostrils flare. Empty spaces terrify him more than armies. Ghosts expand where the herd contracts. Sun hits a vodka bottle in a saddlebag prisming light across the rearmost cart. It's 9:17 a.m. Soviet timekeeping clings like frost to these latitudes. The driver covers the bottle, not for temperance, but to stop reflections signaling enemies. Paranoia, survival, same label, different vintage. The whistle's 3rd note rises, higher, thinner, an ice pick to the cortex. Horses shudder collectively, their ribs expanding into armored plates. Riders chew their cheeks, a childish habit excused by mortal stakes. You taste copper, maybe fear, maybe just yesterday's blood sausage. When the final silence falls, it's heavier than the sky. 632 lungs hold 13 heart stutter, and a single horseman, way out east, forgets to stop pissing. His steam joins the dust, marking the caravan's passage more honestly than any chronicle. The chieftain kicks, but his geldings already moving the Joshua Sagabat of the animal kingdom. Ripples follow, a percussion line of hooves and hope. You glance back, camp remains form a wound the steppe will scab over by noon. Someone coughs, the sound swallowed faster than a hashishin's dagger. The horizon snickers. It's heard this punchline before. Wheels groan, their iron-rimmed complaints etching fresh tracks in soil older than dynasties. You never knew wood could sound so resigned. These axles probably hauled Badu Khan's socks westward once. Fact, Mongol wagon wheels used birch resin glue. Birch saps still gumming up restorers' chisels in Novgorod museums. The child's wave lingers, tiny fingers clutching air where tents once stood. Her shadow stretches a puppet show for migrating cranes. Quirk steppe children learn to count using horsetails, each hair representing a day's ride to Xanadu. A dried sheep's bladder balloon escapes from some crate, bobbing upward like a drunken planet. Make a wish if you trust sky burps. Dust curls, hungry for any moisture left. Your tongue tastes of static and the ghost of last night's fermented mare's milk. 3 riders ahead sneeze in unison, an allergic salute to pollen from Genghis, favorite massacre sites. Historians still argue whether kids joined caravans as labor or just lucky charms against jinn. Plodding rhythm sets in left, right, left until walking becomes a trance. Somewhere, a camel farts the opening notes of Kalinka. Laughter gets smothered. Superstition says mirth attracts dust demons. You spot a scout peeling blisters, his foot mapped in weeping continents. Keep walking. Blisters built the Great Wall's absentee contractor program. Noon sun transforms your sash into an oven coil. That indigo dye actually crushed lappies from a bad action mine, abandoned after a parrot's prophecy. The merchant who sold it swore blue wards off scorpions. So far, no scorpions. So far, no sanity either. A cart cracks, its load of porcelain shifting like anxious teeth. The driver mutters Tang Dynasty curses, his vocabulary honed by 8 broken shipments to Samarkand. Someone hums, off-key, possibly a Uyghur love song or a hernia exam. Art's subjective out here. Wind sculpts the distant haze into half-remembered faces. That smudge could be mountains or Timor's siege engines parked for lunch. Your eyes water, but blinking's risky. Miss a second, miss the moment. A vulture divorces its shadow. The child reappears, miniature and persistent, now kicking a goat vertebra along the column. She's farming XP in some invisible game. Her rules indecipherable as old Uyghur script. An elder tosses her a raisin cluster. She catches it without breaking stride. Steppe toddlers multitask better than Silicon Valley. Snort to your left, a gelding nurses grudges and an infected molar. Its rider applies a poultice of. Is that urine-soaked barley? Ancient Mongolian dentistry, at its finest, works better than insurance copays. The horse's breath could strip paint or baptize new atheists. You count 13 different shades of dust, ochre, bone, the gray that clings to unwashed souls. Every inhale adds another layer to your personal stratigraphy. Future archaeologists will carbon date your sinuses and weep. Shadows stretch, slurring westward like drunk sundials. The caravan's heartbeat slows, feet sinking with the earth's reluctant rotation. A hawk tests the air, finds it wanting, pivots toward better prospects in Kazakhstan. Can't blame her, you defect for a decent bath too. Twilight comes not with a sigh, but a spreadsheet. Stars punch time cards. The moon clocks in late as usual. Your tent materializes, same patchwork of felt and existential dread as yesterday. The child waves again from some new outpost of imagination, her game eternal. Sleep arrives as a paused sentence, a comma where death should you drift anyway. Morning light scrubs the camp's final traces, as if night swallowed and digested your makeshift home. Those felt tents, reduced to grass indents, like the steppe's memory foam. Fact, nomadic camps left such faint marks that archaeologists still trip over undetected Mongol latrine pits. Your boot nudges a charred stick. Last night's fire now, just a punctuation mark in dirt. The child's goat vertebra lies abandoned, already half buried. A beetle claims it for a palace. Quirk steppe beetles were considered messengers of Tengri, their dung-rolling paths red like celestial GPS. You resist the urge to check ways. Wind sweeps through, a librarian reshelving the dust. Each gust files away hoofprints. Wagon ruts the faint smell of fermented milk. A vulture circles, CEO of the carrion economy. Its shadow ticks across the ground like a tax collector's clock. Historians still argue whether caravans used sky burials or just let relatives forget grandma near eagle nests. You spit, half prayer, half protest. Saliva hits dirt and evaporates before forming an opinion. Someone's lost prayer ribbon snags on a thorn bush, silk threads whispering secrets to no one. The wind unspools Om Mani Padme hum into gibberish. That cobalt dye, bluer than a Netflix subscription fee. You wonder if future hipsters will sell Mongol minimalist prints on Etsy. Spoiler, yes, and charge extra for moth holes. Your sash sags, loosened by miles and existential doubt. Tighten it, feel the ghost of yesterday's mutton stew sloshing in protest. Ahead, camels adopt that Zen expression of creatures who have mastered the art of emotional detachment. Their humps sway metronomes, counting down to the next oasis or bankruptcy. A scout's whistle ricochets off nothing, the horizon's playing its favorite trick. Same in all directions. You squint at a speck rider. Rock, dehydrated mirage of Marcus Aurelius. Doesn't matter. Rules say keep walking, left, right, left, until your skeleton memorizes the rhythm. Dust devils spiral up, temporary tornadoes throwing tantrums. One whirls a shred of parchment. Maybe a love letter. Maybe a IOU from Turragene Cotton's silk tacks. The child's laughter ghosts past her game, now invisible, but enduring. Steppe kids win at hide-and-seek forever. Sunset arrives without apology, blazing the sky with unpaid invoices. Stars flicker on understudies for yesterday's constellations. You unroll a felt mat that smells of wet dog and destiny. The earth hugs back, a bit too clingy for comfort. Sleep comes, a sneaky burglar jimmying your eyelids shut. Dreams offer reruns, faceless traders, unreadable maps, a parrot reciting Yuan dynasty tax codes. You wake gripping a rock for defense or companionship. Can't tell anymore. Dawn reveals the truth. No grand revelation, just a beetle dragging your lost bead westward. The steppe keeps no receipts. Follow the insect or the horizon. Same difference. Left, right, left, the caravan's new liturgy. A horseman gallops past, cloak flapping like a surrender flag. He's either late for battle or early for siesta. His mare's tail flicks a Morse code message. Turn back. Too late, the steps swallowed the path hole. Your shadow stretches thin and desperate, cling filming the earth. By noon, it'll retreat, a turtle hiding from existential heat. Lunch is salt jerky and regret. The mare's milk in your flask, now an avant-garde cheese. Bon appetit. Wind sculpts dunes into fleeting monuments. A sand sphinx, Genghis, playing kazoo, your third-grade teacher. Blink, it's just grit again. The steppes a compulsive liar with perfect alibis. You kick a stone, it apologizes in dead lingua francas. Nightfall, the camp's absence feels louder than its presence. No fires crackle, no snoring camels, just the void's ASMR playlist. You hum a tune, the wind steals the chorus. Plagiarism thrives out here. Moonlight licks the steps' wounds clean until even your footprints fade. Tomorrow's riders will pass clueless, trampling your ghost's makeshift grave. The beetle marches on its dungball empire, expanding one revolution at a time. You yawn wide enough to inhale the horizon and let the road win. Your souls find the groove, that sacred alliance between foot and earth, perfected over weeks. Each step clicks into the next, a metronome powered by blisters and stubbornness. The camels sway, their humps sketching lazy figure eights in the air. Someone starts humming, a tune your bones recognize before your ears. Voices stitch themselves to the rhythm, patchy at first, then seamless. That's the thing about Mongol caravans. They didn't just move goods. They moved time. Fact, sledges carried ice blocks from northern lakes to Karakoram, a frozen clock ticking across the steppe. The song crescendos, lyrics warped by 3 generations of cracked lips. You catch the word swan and betrayal, classic nomadic drama. A toddler claps offbeat, the future's remix already brewing. Your canteen sloshes, last night's rain tasting faintly of yak butter. Quirk, some herders believed rainwater collected in hoofprints cured melancholy. You side-eye a nearby puddle, decide your existential crisis can wait. Ahead, a rider's silhouette blurs, part man, part mirage. His horse's tail flicks semaphore, every twitch screaming we've done this before. A gust rips your hat sideways, vengeance for mocking the wind earlier. You chase it, performing the world's least dignified folk dance. The hat lodges in a thorn bush, nature's trophy cabinet. Trade offer. You receive head sunburn. The bush keeps your dignity. Deal. Historians still argue whether camel caravans shaped the steppes' footpaths or just followed the trails of ancient mammoths. You step over a fossilized turd the size of a melon, mystery solved. The child from yesterday reappears, now dragging a stick sword. Her battle cry, a perfect imitation of the chieftain's sneeze. The future empress approves. Dust coats your teeth, gritty praise for surviving this far. You mimic the camel's mouths, chewing nothing with profound focus. A guard snorts his laughter short and rusty. Shared delirium sticks, better than any treaty. The song transitions, slower now, vowels stretching like tired muscles. Lyrics dissolve into hums, then sighs, then the clink of stirrups. Melodies here aren't performed, they're exhaled. Your horse yawns, a 4-octave masterpiece. Even the scouting falcon naps, its jesses swaying like unfinished sentences. Sunset arrives, blushing at its own tardiness. You glimpse a stone marker ahead etched with symbols worn smooth by centuries of thumbs. Someone's ancestral, I was here. Your finger traces the grooves, sharing graphite with a dead stranger's voice. The wind rewrites your name in the margins. Dinner's a lukewarm haunch, seasoned with road grit. Camels eye your meal, their stares heavy with judgy silence. You toss a scrap, they pretend not to catch it. Pride's a luxury out here. Stars emerge, patron saints of insomniacs and second-guessers. A scout points out the bear, the wolf, the forgotten sandal. The astrologer grumbles, revises his charts, throws a mutton bone at the Milky Way. Somewhere, a Tengri spirit files a noise complaint. You unroll your bedding, same dent as last night. The ground's colder now, whispering winter's itinerary through your furs. A wolf's howl stitches the dark together, needle and thread of sound. You count its echoes instead of sheep. Dawn cracks open, a verdict in pastel. Frost clings to your eyelashes, melts into faux tears. The caravans didn't mourn departures. Why waste salt? You kick the ashes of last night's fire, watching sparks disguise themselves as lightning bugs. A rider retches magnificently last supper's revenge. The healer arrives, smearing paste, so bitter it turns vowels into consonants. Trade secret, fermented horse milk, hides any taste. YOU, Chinese letter, pocket the recipe, future hangovers, quivering in anticipation. The path narrows, selling camaraderie for solitude. Your shadow walks ahead, impatient teen ditching the old model. You let it go, everything comes back chewed by the step eventually. By midday, the song resurfaces, rougher, missing a verse, humming where words fled. The rhythm stumbles, writes itself, stumbles again. No one mentions the gap. Archaeology'll piece it together later, probably wrong. The beetle from yesterday overtakes you, dung ball bigger than its body. You salute its hustle. Capitalism's blueprint rolls on. Night falls without fanfare, just a dimmer switch cranked too fast. You count breaths, sync them to the mare's heartbeat, fail. The stars rewrite their manifesto. You skim the footnotes. Sleep comes, a debt collector with soft hands. Dreams recycle. Silk unfurling into rivers, your teeth cracking on unpopped sorghum. A parrot demanding customs papers. You wake clutching a rock, the same one as yesterday. It's growing on you. Sunrise offers no epiphanies, just a scarred horizon and lukewarm tea. The caravan stirs, bones creaking out their objections. You yawn, your breath hangs, freezes midair. Signs a temporary peace treaty. The path ahead bleeds into the sky, a seam stitched with mirages. Left, right, left, the liturgy holds. Songs may fray, rhythms falter, but the step's heartbeat endures, one hoof fall at a time. The horizon bleeds, its edges blurring like watercolor on cheap parchment. Your boots kiss cracked earth. One final step becoming the next journey's first. Fact: Genghis Khan's postal relay stations once dotted these routes. Horsemen swapping mounts every 20 miles to outrace rumors. Those hoofbeats still hum beneath your soles, ghostly RPMs vibrating through time. A silk scrap flutters from a camel's load 2 centuries too late for Marco Polo's journal. You pocket it anyway, future. You'll need bookmark material for bargain bin histories. Quirk: some Gobi herders swear the first noodles were invented by road-weary cooks, too tired to chew meat. Your stomach growls approval, reinvented or not. Dinner's still 7 hours away. Shadows stretch, then snap back, the steppe playing cats cradle with daylight. That rock formation ahead. Yesterday's mirage, now stubbornly real. You mutter growth mindset, and the horse side-eyes your optimism. Wind pirouettes through saddlebags, plucking a loose horsehair string. It twangs, a bass line for the void. Mountains flirt with the northern sky tips, dusted with what your knees insist is snow, your liver says vodka salt. Historians still argue whether the Silk Road died when ships outpaced camels, or just learned to swim. You spot a rusted spur, half buried in dirt, some merchant's final compromise between land and sea. Dust devils waltz in the distance, nature's ballroom dancers with terrible balance. Your canteen offers a tepid swig of betrayal in every sip. A merchant's joke floats back, thirsty. Breathe deep, air's free here. The punchline evaporates, much like your patience. Sunset arrives flamboyant, streaking the sky like a drunk calligrapher's final masterpiece. You count colors, lose track at purple, brown, orange. Surrender to the show. Camels huff, unimpressed critics demanding subtler symbolism. The astrologer mutters about planetary alignments, but scribbles notes faster than a gambling addict. Stars emerge not as pinpricks, but knife slits in a cosmic tent. You squint, spot the great cart asterism, Mongol navigators' GPS, before vowels were invented. A meteor streaks, someone's forgotten cigarette tossed from heaven's balcony. Make a wish, then immediately question celestial bureaucracy. Night's chill arrives, uninvited and clingy. You burrow into hides that smell of petrified sheep and poor decisions. The campfire's down to embers, glowing like sleeping dragon nostrils. Someone's snore syncs with a distant owl, ambient techno for the sleep-deprived. Dawn comes rinsed and pale, squeezing through cloud cracks. Frost patterns etch your tent, temporary tattoos for the functionally nomadic. You peel them off, leaving skin raw, a receipt for survival. Breakfast, congealed porridge with bonus grit. Michelin inspectors wisely avoid the steppe. A fox darts across the path, carrying what's either a very small rabbit or a very ambitious fur hat. The child from yesterday points, invents an elaborate origin story involving moon cheese. You nod. Plot holes be damned, myth beats reality. Every dehydrated morning, saddle sores hum their daily anthem, a Gregorian chant in reverse. Your horse's ears swivel, nature's mood ring gauging your sanity. You wink, it snorts, mutual understanding achieved. A breeze delivers the sea's echo, or maybe just tinnitus with delusions of grandeur. The path widens, narrows, gasps for identity. Wheel ruts fork, then merge indecisive as a teenage pharaoh. You choose left, because the right rut smells vaguely of regret. A raven circles, avian realtor scouting for future carcasses. Noon sun hammers down anviling thoughts into basic shapes. You recite pi to 9 digits. Give up settle for sarcastic haikus. Saddle, my old friend, your chafing haunts realms unseen. Where's my aloe vera? The scribe behind you coughs, possibly vomiting, possibly applauding. Clouds congeal, thick and curdled. First raindrop hits your nose. Second, your saddle. Third, your last nerve. The storm unleashes, pelting ice marbles that roll downhill. Nature's slot machine paying out in bruises. You hunker, become one with the mud, a low-rent Buddha, lightning forks, illuminating a ruin ahead, crumbling walls doing their best impression of ambition. Market stall, watchtower, love hotel for wayward spirits. Archaeology's problem now. The scribe sketches it, adding comically large rats for historical accuracy. Rain stops, air thick with the scent of rinsed earth. Your socks squelch, an aquatic symphony. Left foot allegro, right foot funeral dirge. The caravan master sniffs, declares this a character-building drizzle, then retreats to his dry tent. Taché. Dusk arrives sheepish, smudging the horizon with its thumb. You spot a lone tree twisted into a yoga pose, even your spine envies. Roots claw at cracked soil, nature's middle finger to entropy. A crow nests in its branches, flipping through real estate brochures. Stars return, less celestial wonder, more overachieving fireflies. Mars glows, the Steve Jobs of planets, all hype and no atmosphere. The astrologer lobs a dried apricot at it, misses, blames atmospheric refraction. Somewhere, a Khan's ghost facepalms. Your bedroll clings like jealous seaweed smelling of existential damp. Dreams feature talking yurts and suspiciously flexible geography. You wake clutching a rock, which no, that's your left kidney. The steppe redefines morning stiffness. Sunrise, a rumor in peach and denial. Frost etches your breath into temporary sculptures, Rorschach blobs whispering go home, but home's a dice roll, and the caravan's your only constant. You scrape ice from your beard, reinvent yourself as a human sorbet. The horse nudges your shoulder, impatient coworker, ready to clock in. You mount, joints creaking the Jurassic Park theme, and smile. The horizon's just a suggestion, the road's a forever draft, and somewhere ahead, a parrot still demands customs papers. The horizon softens, edges dissolving into watercolor size. Your boots press dormant earth, each step now a whisper between journeys. Fact, Genghis Khan's messengers once swapped steeds here every 20 miles. Their urgency now echoes in the wind's low thrum. Breathe deep, those ghosts ride beside you still, pacing your breath. A threadbare silk scrap tumbles past, centuries late for any ledger. You let it go. Future archaeologists need puzzles to solve. Some herders claim noodles were born from tired teeth and stubborn mutton. Your stomach growls agreement. Dinner remains a mirage, but hunger makes even dust taste mythic. Shadows lengthen, fold, then retreat, daylight dwindling to a thread. That jagged rock ahead, yesterday's hallucination, now solid as your doubts. Your horse huffs, a sound dangerously close to laughter. Wind plucks a stray hair from your saddle. It hums, a lullaby older than empires. Mountains loom, dust-kissed peaks wearing what might be snow or ash. Historians quarrel whether the Silk Road drowned or simply forgot its name. A rusted spur glints, one merchant's unfinished argument with the horizon. Pocket it, let the dead keep their receipts. Dust devils twirl like clumsy dancers, collapsing mid-spin. Your canteen sloshes, tepid confession of dwindling hope. A voice ghosts by, thirsty. Just drink the sky. The jest lingers, salt and sand on your tongue. Sunset paints the dome above brushstrokes of amber blush charcoal. You name colors until language fails, then surrender to the gradient. Camels grumble, critics of nature's excess. The astrologer scratches notes, scribbles constellations only dreamers trust. Stars bloom not pinpricks, but borrowed light. There, the great cart, your ancestors' star map etched inklings of north. A meteor streaks, a single ember from heaven's hearth. Wish, then release, celestial clerks work slow shifts. Night's chill lingers like a forgotten guest. You burrow into hides that smell of sage and campfire stories. Embers glow, dragon breath syncing with your own. Someone's snore harmonizes with crickets, a steady rhythm to anchor your pulse. Dawn arrives, pale fingers prying open the east. Frost etches your tent, stories only skin remembers. Breakfast, congealed oats sweetened with resolve. Gourmets fear the steppe's honesty. A fox darts, hauling loot or lost laundry. The child grins, spins tailies of moon milk and rabbit kings. You nod, myths stitch the world tighter than facts. Saddle sores hum, a hymn of friction and grit. Your horse's ears twitch, a question. You pat its neck, no answer needed. Wind carries a half-heard whisper, ocean or delirium. Neither claims victory. The path unravels, braids, forgets itself. Wheel ruts diverge, left or right. Choose the one that smells of time or stubbornness. A raven's shadow blesses your choice for now. Noon sun drapes like a heavy quilt. You tally pie to 7 digits stall, compose bad poetry. Leather sings, bones chant backup. Where's my cushion? The scribe coughs, It's either applause or indigestion. Clouds clot gray and grudging. Rain taps your nose, then drums your hood. Hail follows nature's dice roll. You crouch, become a child, a patient stone, a heartbeat. Lightning cracks, exposes a ruined skeleton. Tavern, temple, lover's tomb, let ruins keep their secrets. The scribe sketches, adds dozing dragons for flair. Rain retreats, leaves earth exhaling petrichor. Your socks squelch, left foot waltzes, right foot mourns. The caravan master calls this baptism, his smirk hidden under damp wool. Dusk smudges the west, an inkblot horizon. A tree bends, greets the wind with a bow. A crow tucks its head, unimpressed by your metaphors. Stars reappear, old friends with imperfect constellations. Mars glows, brash and crimson. The astrologer lobs an apricot, misses, blames stardust. A chuckle ripples through time. Your bedroll cradles you, earth's breath beneath, sky's lullaby above. Dreams stitch strange geographies. Yurts converse, in riddles rivers flow uphill. You wake clutching a pebble or a kidney. Both sting. Sunrise smears, a watercolor blushing with awkward grace. Frost etches your exhale, temporary hieroglyphs that spell still here. The road yawns, stretches, waits. Your horse nudges, offers its back like a truce. Mount, joints creak, a familiar aria. Ride into the horizon's frayed hem. A line barely there, already yours. Somewhere ahead, a camel's bell rings. A single note dissolving into silence. Until tomorrow, breathe, the dark is soft here, and the earth remembers your name.